Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
Let me go, let me go. Olivia struggled to get out of the hands of the guard who was trying to stop her. Stop! He commanded, spreading his arms wide. The man was afraid of hurting his former mistress. You are forbidden to enter the territory. But the woman, not listening to him, was already running towards the house. She threw the front door open. Edward, listen to me. You have no right to keep me out of the house. My son is here. Why are you here? Edward asked coldly and wanted to slam the door in his ex-wife's face. I think I've explained everything to you. You're wasting your time. The man grinned at Olivia. He was about to pull the door open, but the woman squeezed through at the last second. Edward allowed entry, but would not let her in any further. He played with her like a cat with a mouse, enjoying his own superiority. Give me my son. His voice was breaking. The woman struggled not to cry. I'm not asking you for anything more. You're not asking me for anything. Who the hell are you to make any claims against me? Do you know I could throw you out of here right now? And no one would say a word to me. Why are you doing this to us? Brian's little, he misses me, he needs me. You're wrong. Your son doesn't care about you. He'll never even think about you. He's a smart boy. He knows how to behave. Brian is fine, much better than with a hysterical mother. You're telling me all this on purpose to hurt me now, aren't you? You know how much I love my son, and you won't let me near him. Do you enjoy torturing me? I don't understand what I did to you. What's my fault? Why are you manipulating my son? Give the child away. You don't care about him after all. He needs a mother. He doesn't need a mother like you. What kind of mother? You have nothing to reproach me with. God be with him. Will you get lawyers on me? But where will you get the money for them? He grabbed her by the hair and pulled her closer to him. Olivia grimaced in pain. No lawyer can help you, okay? I can buy all the lawyers in town, and no one's going to tell me what to do. If I said Brian would stay with me, then he will. Get it through your head. I'm taking my son. Fearlessly, looking into her ex-husband's eyes, the woman said, and I will destroy you as you destroyed me. I hate you with every fiber of my being. I have no love left in me for you. You had a chance to settle this peacefully, but you chose a different path, and now there will be no mercy. If you think I'm afraid of your threats, you're wrong. I'm a mother, and I'll fight for my son to the end. Are you threatening me? Edward laughed. You're above that I shook off my shoulder without regret. You won't get anywhere, Brian, my son. If any of your defenders dare to come at me, they'll be sorry. He pushed Olivia away, and she fell to the floor again. Her hands shook treacherously, her heart clenched with fear. The woman didn't know what to expect from Edward. Bob, the man called out. At once a big uncle appeared in the living room, a mountain of muscle bubbling under his jacket. Get her out of here and tell the boys not to let her near my house again. If they miss luck today, I'll fire them. Make sure she leaves the house and doesn't find a loophole to come back here. I hope so. Edward cast a last contemptuous glance at his wife. You'll remember today's lesson for a long time. He left, and the big man grabbed Olivia's shoulder, lifted her off the floor, and dragged her out of the house. Let me go. The woman tried to resist. You're hurting me. Listen. The man spoke quietly, right into the ear of the former landlady. Get out of here and don't come back. He'll kill you. You'll never get anywhere. Guys, he added loudly. The landlord ordered this woman to stay away. He pushed her out into the street and slammed the gate shut. Olivia leaned back against it, her legs stiff, her head aching from the blow, her lips swollen. She shakily fixed her hair, shook out her jeans, pulled her blouse off. Torn. She looked regretfully at the ripped buttons. Bastard. I'd only made him more angry, and I didn't even have anyone to turn to. She walked down the street away from the house where she had once been happy. Now he won't give me my son, she said, wrapping her arms around her shoulders. What did I hope for when I went there? All my efforts were in vain. How long have I been trying to get the right to at least see my son, and all in vain? How can I go on living? My poor boy, I miss you very much. God, how could I love that man? He's a real beast. Olivia walked aimlessly down the dark street. Her thoughts were confused. Pain, despair overwhelmed her. She couldn't give up. She talked herself into it. There are no hopeless situations. I just have to think hard. I have to stand up. Brian is waiting for me. I'd do anything for him. Tears filled her eyes as the dusk grew darker and darker. How could I not see him as a monster? She asked herself. Did I understand anything? I was young, inexperienced. I lost my head over him. Of course he was handsome, successful. He was the kind of man every girl dreamed of, and how beautifully he courted me. How tenderly he looked at me. I thought that was it. Now my sufferings were over, and my life began a white streak. I believed that Edward was my destiny. He surrounded me with care and attention, spared me nothing, of course he did. A rich businessman, he could afford absolutely everything. I fell in love with him without a second thought, and I couldn't have done it any other way. He seemed to love me too, and I thought I was in a fairy tale. She grinned bitterly. No wonder. What did I see in my 19 years? No experience, no support. Behind him it seemed I'd be like a stone wall, unwilling to see the obvious. Olivia was flooded with memories. In front of my eyes, as if in reality stood a shabby apartment, a long time ago has not seen repairs and perpetually drunken mother. Well, looking at her daughter with cloudy eyes, Doris asked, "What are you staring at? Take it off the table. You see mother is not well. She's grown so healthy. You should help your mother long ago." She wrapped an old, faded robe on her chest and pointed at the table filled with dirty dishes, covered with a tablecloth, in the middle of which was an empty bottle of vodka. "Mom, I'm hungry." Olivia looked at her pitifully. "I'll be right there." The woman got up from the stool and swaying, went to the cupboard with food. "I'll boil some porridge and eat." The neighbor brought cereals, but there's no milk, but there's bread. And you clear the table. You're a big girl, 12 years old soon, and you're no help at all. The girls silently began to wash the dishes. Finally, they sat down at the table. "Is that you?" Doris asked without looking up at her daughter. "Go to the neighbor. Ask him for a hangover." "Mommy." Olivia had tears in her eyes. "Why don't you do that?" "Are you trying to contradict your mother?" She bailed. "Who the hell are you?" "I feed you, and you don't want to respect your mother?" Choking on poorly cooked, sticky porridge, swallowing tears, the girl was silent. "Go now." Taking the bowl of porridge from her, Doris ordered, "Otherwise I won't feed you." "You are of no use, only loss. What are you sitting around for?" We took pity on you last time. We didn't punish you. Now you have to answer for your behavior to the fullest." "But they really started it first." Olivia repeated stubbornly. "Why should I stand by and keep silent if they beat me?" "Why don't you punish them? I saw you hitting your classmates. Aren't you ashamed? You're ruining my performance. Your name is the only one that comes up in all the meetings. Stop bickering. Come with me now." She dragged a leaning Olivia into the principal's office. "Here's Charles." The teacher pushed the girl into the office. "Olivia's fighting again. It's a terrible child. I don't know how to talk to her anymore. Come on, Vanessa. Looking affectionately at Olivia, the principal said, "We have to sort things out first." "Olivia?" He turned to the girl. "What happened? Why did you fight?" "They started it first," she muttered. "But you know it's not good to fight, don't you? You're a girl, and girls shouldn't fight. You have to prove your point with words, not fists. It's bad, very bad. Go to class. Class has already started. I hope you'll apologize to your classmates, promise." Olivia was stubbornly silent. See? Vanessa is teary-eyed. She won't even apologize. I'm sure Olivia will realize everything and make up with the girls. Go to class. He quietly nudged her out of the room. "Why are you two getting so upset?" The principal spoke sternly as Olivia walked out. She was standing outside the door, all turned to listen. "You know that the girl is from a dysfunctional family. Her mother drinks. Her father is absent. What do you want? We'll have to put up with her until 9th grade, and then let her go to some school. We can't kick her out of school. She is the daughter of a single mother, and she has excellent grades." The girl clenched her fists tightly. She was hurt and ashamed of her mother, but she knew she would never apologize to the classmates who had insulted her. Olivia's mother died when she was barely 16. She only passed her exams after the 9th grade with flying colors. The woman for some time held on, did not drink. Even at work she was praised, but at her daughter's graduation she could not resist. She drank a shot of vodka and could not stop. The girl came home and found her mother lying on the floor. She called an ambulance, but the doctors could not do anything. The heart of a young, still a woman, exhausted by drinking, could not withstand. "Don't worry," her grandmother comforted her at the wake. "I will not give you to the orphanage. I will put you on your feet. You only finish school, and then you decide how to go on living." The last 2 school years flew by. Olivia dreamed of going to college. "Where would you go to college?" Grandma said. "Where can I get so much money?" "My pension is small. I have to live on my own." "Don't take offense at me. I did what I could." "Don't be sorry, granddaughter. Now you'll find your own way in life. I'm no help to you." "I'm not offended, grandmother." The girl hugged the old woman. "You have done a lot for me, and I will try to enter the institute. I have a dream." Olivia said goodbye to her grandmother and went to the institute. She easily passed the exams, but the first year was not easy. Often she had to tighten her belt. She was short of money. "Olivia, why don't your parents help you?" Her friends, with whom she lived in the dormitory in one room, asked her. "I don't have parents." Olivia answered and frowned, not wanting to discuss the subject. "What do you live on?" They didn't stop. "On a survivor's pension and a scholarship." "I hope that I'll pass the session well." "Who would doubt it? You spend all your days and nights at school, no personal life. Why don't you come to the club with us? You'll have some fun. You don't go out at all." "No girls." She firmly rejected all her friends' suggestions. "I have no extra money, and I need to study. I came here to study, not to have fun." The student's persistence paid off. She passed the session with an increased scholarship. "How lucky you are," enviously said the roommates. She passed the exams better than anyone else. "What does luck have to do with it?" Olivia shrugged her shoulders. "I want to become a lawyer, and not just a lawyer, but the best, and otherwise it's not worth studying." In the second year after the winter session, girlfriends still persuaded the girl to go with them to a nightclub. "Olivia, give up on this study," they said. "The best years are passing by, and you haven't even met a single guy. Why don't you come with us? Let's celebrate the end of the session. How long can you sit behind your books? We can get by without them for one night." "No." The girl took out a book and pretended to be absorbed in reading. "I'm not going. Don't talk me into it." "Olivia?" One of her neighbors came over. "We know why you refuse, because of money, right?" The girl didn't answer anything. She bowed her head even lower to the book. "We chipped in for your ticket. Shall we go? At least for once have a vacation like a human being." I know." Her friend waved her hands at her as soon as Olivia was about to object. "You're proud. You'll give us the money when you become a famous lawyer. Come on, we're offering it to you out of the goodness of our hearts." "All right." The girl made up her mind. "I'll go with you." "Well done." The neighbors rejoiced. "Oh, how we'll have a dance floor tonight. Let the girls hold their dates tighter. The most handsome guys will be ours." The club was crowded. The girlfriends immediately picked up the young men. Olivia felt out of place. She stood on the sidelines, watching the others dance. She was intimidated by the loud music and disgusted by the drunken girls with cigarettes in their teeth. "Do you mind if I keep you company?" Suddenly, the girl heard a velvety man's voice behind her. She looked back and was stunned. In front of her stood a tall, handsome man. The top few buttons of his dark shirt were undone, and Olivia could see his strong, muscular chest. The man ruffled the thick, dark hair on his head with his hand. "So, how's it going?" The stranger looked at her expectantly. "May I join you?" "Please." Olivia shivered. She didn't know how to behave. "Are you here alone?" "No, with my friends. They're dancing, and I'm not very good at it." "Then may I invite you?" The man held out his hand to her as the slow song played. "Together we'll make a beautiful duet." "I can't dance either." The girl smiled and put her slender hand into his broad, strong palm. "Are you studying?" "Somehow I've never seen you here before." "Yes, I am." Her voice was hoarse with excitement. Olivia coughed. "Do you know everyone here?" "I know the ones who come here all the time. I agreed to go with my girlfriends for the first time today. How lucky I am." The stranger smiled. "I had something to do, but I put it off. Probably felt that today I would meet my destiny, and I was not mistaken." Olivia's heart fluttered. "Fool!" She reprimanded herself. "He says those words to every woman he meets, and you hang your ears. Look, he's much older than you, maybe even married, and here from the family rests. He's the one who lures fools like you into his nets." The girl realized with her mind that her new acquaintance, a master of beautiful words, but for some reason I wanted to believe. "What is your name?" The man's voice interrupted the girl's thoughts. "Olivia. My name is Olivia. Nice to meet you." "I'm Edward." The new acquaintance did not leave the girl's side the whole evening. He was strong and confident. "May I buy you a drink?" The man offered. "I don't drink alcohol." "You think this place is all about alcoholic cocktails?" "You're wrong. They make excellent non-alcoholic drinks here." "Don't worry, I'm not going to get you drunk." "Why don't we stop hollering at each other?" He suddenly suggested it. "Let's just go straight to the first name, shall we?" "I agree." Olivia smiled. She felt at ease around Edward. "Olivia, you are very beautiful." The man said, when they were already sitting at the table and drinking cocktails, "You have a special beauty, not flashy, but once one look at your face, one can lose peace forever." "You say that too." "Is the girl embarrassed?" "I forgot we switched to you, didn't we?" "You're not like the others. So pure, modest. I've never met such a person." "What do you think about if we continue our acquaintance and meet tomorrow at the cafe?" "I want to know more about you." "Oh," the girl was scared. "I guess it won't work. I'm studying at the library tomorrow. I have books on order. Don't you have any rest at all? You're on vacation. Edward was surprised. Can't you spare at least a couple of hours? Don't you ever take a vacation? All right. The girl gave in. Come on, come on. She corrected herself and blushed. I'll meet you. Back in the room, the roommates began to ask Olivia about the new acquaintance. I don't know anything about him. The girl answered. You can see that he is not a major, living on his father's money, a grown-up man. The girls reasoned. Older by 10 years, if not more. Dressed to the hilt, not on the market, a businessman probably. Lucky you, Olivia. Your first outing and such a good one. You've picked up a man. Don't be jealous. Olivia said no. Maybe he won't want to see me again. I don't think I can please such a mature, experienced man. But there was hope in the girl's soul. Like many girls who grew up without a father, she was attracted to older men. If only the young beauty knew that Edward had lost his peace because of her. He barely waited to see her. A man was waiting for her outside the library. As soon as she appeared at the door, he jumped out of the car and ran toward her, carrying a huge bouquet of flowers. Olivia, he called out to the girl. I couldn't bear to meet you here. Edward said, handing Olivia the flowers. She stopped, blushing with pleasure, recognizing him as her new acquaintance. I didn't get a good look at you yesterday. You look even more beautiful in the light of day. Shall we go? He helped the girl into the car. Edward opened the door and gave her his hand. Olivia, not used to male attention, was embarrassed and blushing. Olivia, you are blushing so charmingly. The man smiled, which embarrassed the young beauty even more. This dress suits you very well, he remarked. You dress very modestly, and I like everything about you. You are so fragile that I want to take you in my arms and not let you out of my embrace. He put his hand over her arm carefully, so as not to frighten her. Olivia, I don't know what's happening to me. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can't eat or sleep because I'm thinking about you all the time. You're like a fresh breeze. I started to look at the world in a completely different way. Before it was just living, working, but now my soul is happy every minute because I can think about you, I can see you. Do you like me, even a little bit? I don't know. During this rapturous speech, the girl sat, afraid to move and look at her vis-a-vis. I've never had a boyfriend. I studied hard because I had no one to rely on. But now you have me. Edward declared fervently. Now you don't have to take care of anything. I'll keep you safe and you study. You're in a hurry. Olivia could not believe her happiness. On the one hand, it seemed to her that everything was just a dream. On the other hand, she was so tired of being alone that she wanted to lean on a strong, masculine shoulder. From that day on, their sudden romance began to develop very quickly. Edward is crazy? His friends told him. She's just a girl. You're 13 years older than her. So what? She's so pure, so tender. She makes me feel like a real man. I want to protect her. I'm ready to throw the whole world at her feet. I'm scared at the thought of losing her. Well, friends, I'm ready to marry her. You're out of your mind. You hardly know her. Do you really like her enough to give up your freedom for her? I feel like I've been waiting for her all my life. It's love at first sight. Are you sure she feels the same way about you? If you could see her eyes. Edward smiled. They don't lie. They reflect more than love. They reflect admiration, adoration, and something else beyond comprehension. No, I knew at once that this was my woman, and I would never give her to anyone. 2 months flew by unnoticed over meetings and partings. Edward showered his beloved with flowers and gifts, but Olivia warned the man when he presented her with a gold chain a week later. "I will not accept such an expensive gift," the girl said firmly. "We don't know each other well enough. I do not want to be obliged, so never buy me expensive things. Anyway, I will not take." But I gladly accepted invitations to the theater for exhibitions. She knew tickets weren't cheap, but she thought such a sign of attention wouldn't hurt her reputation. "Olivia?" Edward called her one day. "I want to take you out of town. We'll be the only ones there. I have a hunting lodge in Pine Barrens. I only invite my closest friends there. You could use some fresh air. Shall we go?" "Let's go," Olivia replied enthusiastically. Pine Boar met with silence. "How beautiful it is here." The girl was surprised to see a large house built of round wood. The rooms were cozy. The walls were decorated with wood. In the living room, the wood in the fireplace crackled cheerfully. The flames played on the wooden floor. In the center of the living room, they were met by a set table. "They are waiting for us." Satisfied with the effect, Edward helped his guest to undress. "Come on, I'll show you to your room." Olivia was surprised that in a wooden house, all the furnishings are completely urban. It is a bathroom, bathrobe, towel. There's a TV, internet. Wow, I didn't expect it. The girl ran her hand over the silk coverlet on the bed. "I often have guests," Edward explained, "and I like comfort. Make yourself comfortable. I'll meet you in the living room in half an hour." Olivia changed her clothes and went downstairs. "Come in." Edward helped her sit down at the table, poured wine into a glass, looking solemn. "Olivia, I've already told you that I'm delighted to meet you." The girl smiled, listening to him attentively. "I won't beat around the bush. I invited you here for a reason." "I want to." The man took a velvet box from the shelf by the fireplace. "To ask you to be my wife." Olivia gasped and blushed. "Say, will you marry me?" "If you like me even a little bit. Believe me, I'll do anything to make you say one day, 'I love you.'" "I love you," quietly said the touched girl. "I agreed to be your wife." Foolish creature. Olivia thought to herself as she looked around. It seemed to her that someone was watching her. How did you not notice that your future husband is a bandit? And not just a gangster, but an authority figure, and his successful business was just a cover. What did I know about people back then? She justified herself. Just when I started to learn about life, he became my salvation from loneliness. I idolized him. Where was I to notice his gangster ways if he kept them carefully hidden? I didn't even have any suspicions. And when I finally did, it was too late. The young woman was again immersed in memories. After all, already at the wedding, I girls hinted that my husband is not who he pretends to be, but I did not want to listen to anything. The wedding was celebrated for 3 days. There were more than 100 guests. "Olivia?" The roommates she'd invited to the wedding asked her. "Where are your relatives?" "I don't have any. I have a brother, but he left home when he was 18, and I haven't heard from him in 15 years. You're my family now." She hugged her friends. "I don't even know if he's alive." "Olivia?" Looking suspiciously at the guests, one of her friends whispered, "Don't you think the guests, no offense to me, are a little strange?" "No. They seem normal." The bride shrugged her shoulders. "Why are you panicking?" Another friend got angry. "Rude, of course, that's true, but just normal guys. So these are Edward's army buddies." Olivia laughed. "He has a lot of friends from the military, from the law enforcement agencies, and there you know, people are not distinguished by delicacy. You don't notice anyone but your fiancé." My friend shook her head. "You fell in love with him like a cat, and what kind of person he is, you have no idea." Luggers become so stupid. Yes, she laughed happily. I love Edward very much. Now I can never think about money, never be afraid of tomorrow. He has taken all my worries on his shoulders, and I dream of having a daughter or a son, a little copy of him. I'm sure we'll be the happiest family, and we'll love each other until our last breath. Have you decided where you'll spend your honeymoon? Abroad? Olivia rolled her eyes dreamily. Edward has promised to show me the world, can you imagine? I, who hadn't even been out of the state my whole life, would be traveling on a yacht. Fancy hotels await us, and only the best seats on the airplanes. We even have personal security. It feels like, my friends have noticed, like you're living in a fairy tale. Yes, Edward gave me a fairy tale. I never dreamed of it. I've never seen anything good. An alcoholic mother, debts, the ridicule of my classmates. I think I'm just now starting to really live. And yet, her friends warned her. You should be careful with his friends. Very much they look like gangsters. The girl did not notice anything around, except her beloved husband. She was flying in the clouds of happiness, carefree, lightness, enthusiasm. That's what surrounded Olivia. The young traveled a lot around the world, discovering new, beautiful places on the planet. One morning, Olivia woke up, stretched and went to the kitchen to prepare her husband's breakfast. Suddenly, she felt an attack of nausea and rushed into the bathroom. What's wrong? Edward asked Edward worriedly, seeing his wife hunched over the sink. Are you sick? No, I don't think so. Breathing heavily, the girl answered, Maybe you ate something last night, or your blood pressure's gone up. I think it's nothing, it'll pass. Don't joke with your health. The man pressed her against him, calming her down. Go to the hospital. The same day, she made an appointment with the doctor. After listening to the symptoms, the doctor looked at the patient thoughtfully and announced, It looks like you're pregnant. Pregnant how? Olivia was surprised. It happens. The doctor laughed. You and your husband are sleeping in the same bed, aren't you? She blushed. There you go. The man grunted in satisfaction. It all makes sense to me. Of course, it is necessary to take tests. I'll write out a referral, but this is just to confirm my hunch. After a while, the results came back positive. She's pregnant. Olivia flew home on wings. Edward, she jumped at her husband's neck. We're going to have a baby. Oh, you're my girl. Her husband took her in his arms and kissed her. Am I going to be a father? Yes, my dear. Olivia laughed merrily. We're going to be parents. Thank you. Putting her down on the floor, her husband said seriously, I had given up hope that anyone would ever call me daddy. Since that memorable day, Edward had literally carried her in his arms, showering her with gifts and compliments. He kicked me with his foot. My husband sat at the feet of his beloved, his cheek pressed against her already rounded tummy. What a miracle! I wonder if he knows I'm his daddy. Of course he does. Olivia answered seriously. Talk to him more often. He will respond to you. The young woman was bathed in her husband's attention. It seemed like a long, wide, white streak. Her husband, swaying slightly, smiled contentedly. He looked like a March cat who had just made a stray cat happy. As Olivia walked up close to her husband, she caught a whiff of alcohol and feminine perfume. Are you drunk? The woman asked cautiously. More like a little tipsy. The husband replied, smiling stupidly. His eyes were jumping, which said only one thing. The husband had fallen in love. Who were you with? You stink of another man's woman. That's none of your business. How can you do this to me? Olivia was outraged and go back to the house as if nothing had happened. I can see you were a woman. So what? You have no conscience. What do you lack? I go out of my way to make your home nice and cozy, and you pay me with black ingratitude. You're seeing some girls. I don't want you to bring any disease into the house. We've got a little kid, and you're hanging around with who knows where and with whom. Shut up, muffled, my husband said, heading for the kitchen. There he took out a bottle of cold water from the refrigerator and began to drink greedily. I'm not going to be silent. With a challenge, replied Olivia, following him. Today you're finally going to listen to me. Do you think I'm going to put up with your shenanigans? Don't think so. If you don't stop, I'll take my son and we'll leave you. I don't want my child to be raised in lies and betrayal. You've destroyed my love for you. You were everything to me. If you don't stop now, I can't vouch for you. Don't shut me up. Let everyone hear what you really are. You're an insolent, unprincipled type. I hate you. Olivia was getting angry. Tears were coming out of her eyes. How could you be so mean to the mother of your child? I said, shut your mouth. Edward thundered. And if I don't, what will you do? At these words, her husband swung around and slapped her. Olivia collapsed to the floor and lost consciousness. She awoke to the first rays of the morning sun. The young woman came to her senses and found herself lying on the kitchen floor. Her head hurt terribly. She felt that her lips were swollen and blood was caked in the corner of her mouth. Olivia remembered everything and cried softly. She got up with difficulty and staggered to the bathroom. Then she went to her son. "Mommy, what's that?" asked 4-year-old Brian, anxiously looking at the bruise on his mother's face. "It was my bad fall." Olivia smiled through her tears. "Don't worry, it will heal soon." The bruise had gone away, but the wound on her heart hadn't healed. Edward pretended that nothing had happened, and Olivia didn't have the energy to argue. One day, she was walking with her son in a park not far from her home when she chatted with an acquaintance. She was met by an angry husband. "Where are you going?" "Don't yell at me." Olivia spoke calmly, even though her heart clenched with fear. She'd never seen her husband like this before. "We went for a walk with Brian and had a little talk with an acquaintance. Don't you dare linger any longer, let alone take my son anywhere. Don't forget, Brian is my son." Edward walked over to his wife, grabbed her and shook her as hard as he could. "If you delay again, you'll be sorry," he said threateningly, his eyes spinning frantically. From then on, her husband began to beat Olivia for the slightest offenses. "Didn't answer the phone on time, got it. Son can't sleep, get it." The woman tried to talk some sense into her husband. "Don't you dare touch me. Even my mother never hit me. If you touch me again, I'll divorce you, take Brian and leave." Edward struck out. She, like a typical doll, flew to the corner of the room and hit her head painfully against the wall. "You." The husband, blushing with anger, leaned over his victim. "You can roll away even now, but you won't get a son. I don't need you. I have an heir, and now I have to raise him into a real man, and you get lost. Besides, you don't have anything of your own here. This," he put his hand around the room, "it's all mine. So I'm not keeping you, get out." "God," thought Olivia, trying to hold back the tears. "How could I tie my life to a monster? I can't stay here. He might kill or maim me one day. My friends were right. He is a beast. I wish I'd known that before. Killing a man is like swatting a mosquito. Yes, we have to run." Olivia decided to bide her time. She secretly took the documents out of the safe, put enough money on her card without her husband noticing, and bought the tickets. On the right day, telling the guards that she was going for a walk, she picked up her son, left the house at a respectable distance, called a cab, and drove to the airport. I grabbed a small bag so as not to attract attention, figuring I'd buy everything I needed when I was safe. He won't come looking for me. She thought as she made her way to her seat. He's bored with me anyway. Let it have his fun with other women. But Edward had very different plans. A week later, the phone rang in the apartment she had rented to hide from her husband. Olivia, unsuspecting, opened the door and froze in horror. "How did you find me?" Frightened, she asked the two thugs who glared at her with a scowl. "It's our job." One of them answered grimly. "Where is the child?" "Why do you want Brian?" The mother asked anxiously. "I'm not giving him to you." She stood in the men's way, blocking the door to the room. But that didn't stop them. They wanted to pull her away, but the woman was ahead of them, took her son in her arms, pressed his chest. He put his arms around her neck and cried out in fear. "Go away, you're scaring him. Have pity on us." Olivia pleaded, hoping to reach the hearts of her husband's guards. "Don't tell Edward you've tracked us down. We have orders to get the boy back." The older man said grimly, "Give him back nicely, or we'll have to use force, and you won't like it." "No," she cried. "Please have mercy. Don't take my son away from me." But the thugs were relentless. The senior easily snatched, screaming with horror of Reup, from the hands of his mother, and headed for the exit, throwing on the way subordinates. "Find the documents on the kid." The boy was sobbing, wriggling, trying to break free, but the guard held him with an iron grip. "Stop!" the woman begged in tears. "Don't touch the child. What kind of people are you? You punish me, do whatever you want, but don't touch my boy." She pounced on the man like a tigress, trying to stop him, beating him with her fists, scratching him, but he calmly left the apartment, carrying the crying Brian under his arm. She was stopped by a second man. "Where's the ID?" He grabbed her by the shoulders, shook her gently to bring her to her senses. She looked up at his tear-stained face and realized that this soulless statue had no heart. There was not a shadow of compassion in his eyes. "Don't make me turn this place upside down," the man said calmly. "Where are they in the bag?" Olivia cried quietly as she watched him rummage through her things. Finally finding what she needed, he shoved the bag into her hands and walked out, closing the door tightly behind him. Olivia sank to the floor and cried out in helplessness. Brian's screaming was in her ears. "Lord, why did you allow this atrocity?" she wailed. "You let me, a fool, get involved with a bandit, and now my son is suffering. My poor boy. How will he be without me in that man's lair? No, I won't leave my boy." The woman wiped her tears, struggled to get up from the floor. Her legs would not hold her. "I will fight. I will return home. I will pray in my feet, only if my husband would give me Brian." She returned to town, checked in with a friend, and learned that Edward had already filed for divorce, and the trial was due in a few days. "He wants to terminate my parental rights." Powerless, she told her friend. "I don't know what to do." "Do what?" "Knock on every door," replied the woman. "You know you can't leave Brian with his father. He'll grow up to be a monster like himself. But I have no proof, you know that. Then get a good lawyer." "I don't have money for a lawyer. Edward's robbed me of everything." Olivia knocked on every door, sounded the alarm. Not child services, not social security. They wouldn't even listen to her. The boy would be better off with his father. They said, "You have nothing, no job, no housing. What are you going to live on? And to bring up a child? My son is entitled to alimony, and I'll start working right away, and I'll be able to provide for my son. I have a good profession. I'm a lawyer. When will you have all this? You haven't worked a day, you won't be hired in any decent law office, and the boy needs to go to kindergarten. He needs to study. If you work, who's gonna look after him? You don't even have any relatives. Without support, Olivia did not give up hope of finding understanding from the court. Tell me, she asked her friend. The court always sides with the mother, doesn't it? He won't leave Brian to his father. On the day of the trial, the woman was very worried. She was alone and had no one to stand up for her. Edward was looking at her with a grin, talking to the lawyer. All rise. The court is in session. The clerk announced. The case is being heard. The judge spoke. For the dissolution of marriage. Plaintiff, you have the floor. What is the reason for the divorce? Honorable court. Edward felt confident. I had to file for divorce because my wife is a drug addict. Olivia was stunned. That's not true. The woman shouted in despair. The court is admonishing you. The clerk stopped her. Next time we'll have to remove you from the courtroom. You see, honorable court, the man gloated at her. She has no self-control at all. I fear for my son's life. I never know what's in her mind. She can't go a day without a dose. I tried to get her into rehab, but she ran away. Look at her. She's crazy. It's scary to leave a child with her. Olivia really didn't look well. The events of the last few days had knocked her out. Dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights and tears, her pale face, her hair, her hands trembling with fear. Everything created the image of an unhealthy person. After a short break, the court announced the decision. The claims are satisfied, the marriage is dissolved, and Brian's son is to be placed in the custody of his father. What father? The mother shrieked. Edward laughed triumphantly in her face. You can't give your son to him. It's wrong. The child must stay with his mother. In desperation, she rushed to the judge. You're making a mistake. I beg you listen to me. But the judge quickly disappeared behind the door without even giving the woman a glance. You can appeal within 10 days, the secretary said nonchalantly. In desperation, Olivia went to her husband and demanded her son back. She had hoped that he had some compassion for her, but she was wrong. You will never see your son again, Edward declared. Do you understand? You have no right to forbid me from seeing Brian. I am his mother. I'm my son's guardian now, and you're nobody. I decide who he sees. You have nothing to give him. What can you give him? I won't let my child grow up poor. He should have the best. Get out of my house. I don't want to see you anymore. I'm sick of your tantrums. I'm not going anywhere until I see my son. I have as much right to him as you do. You don't have any rights. Edward laughed. I deprived you of them. You bribed the court? The woman was horrified. I've settled it, and the rest is none of your business. I'll have the case reviewed. I'll tell everyone what a beast you are. Edward swung around and hit his ex-wife in the face. She flew to the corner of the hallway, her head hitting the wall painfully. Don't you dare tell them anything about me. The man brought his face close to her. I'll bury you alive in the woods. Olivia was frightened and couldn't move. Bob. He shouted to the guard. Get her out of here. Make sure this woman is never allowed on my property again. He threw her out like a stray dog from his posh mansion, took away everything, deprived her of the hope of ever seeing her son. Olivia wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. She walked slowly to wherever she was going. Why did he do this to me? She whispered. I hate him. God, if you are real, punish Edward for the evil he's done to me and Brian. Isn't there anything you can do about him? Can a mother and son be separated from each other with impunity? Where am I going now? I have no money, no place to live. I don't even know what to do next. Edward rolled over my life and divided it into before and after. I want to lie down and die right here. Let my ex-husband be ashamed of himself for driving me to my death. Olivia walked down the road. No, that's a no-go. He'll even be glad if I die. I won't give him that pleasure. I will fight. I have my boy. For his sake, I have no right to give up. Olivia, busy thinking, didn't notice that a tinted SUV was following her down the dark, deserted street. Finally coming out of her reverie, she sensed she was being followed. The woman stopped abruptly, looked back, the car slowed down, and immediately stopped. She resolutely approached the car in full confidence that it was her husband's guards escorting her, wanting to make sure she had definitely given up trying to get back into the house. "What do you want with me?" Olivia banged her fist on the glass. The glass slowly traveled downward. The woman was stunned. Her face reflected first consternation, then bewilderment, surprise. "You?" She exhaled. "How did you find me?" "Get in the car. It's not safe." A voice came from the window. The door opened, and Olivia obediently climbed in and sat down on the seat next to the driver. "Robert," still not believing her eyes, the woman said. "My brother, my darling." His eyes filled with tears. The woman grabbed his hand, pressed it to her lips. She gazed into her brother's face and could not look at him. "Where did you come from?" He put his hand on the back of her head, pulled her toward him, pressed his forehead against hers, just like when she was a child. "Let's get home and talk about it." Robert answered. He let her go and started the car. 20 minutes later, they were sitting in the cozy living room of Robert's apartment. Olivia had a mug of hot tea in her hands. The woman couldn't look at her brother. "Tell me soon, where are you? How did you find me?" "I've been trying to find you for almost 15 years. I thought you were dead. I couldn't tell you that our mom was gone. I was at the cemetery." Robert answered briefly. "It's just that no one recognized me." "Of course, it's been years. How did you recognize me? How did you end up at Edward's house anyway? I haven't let you out of my sight for a day in all these years. But why didn't you contact me? I saw you were doing well, nothing to worry about, and now it was time for me to come to your rescue. I know your husband divorced you. He didn't just divorce me." The woman spoke muffled, her face drooping. "He took my son away from me. I know for a fact he doesn't want him. He wanted to punish me." Olivia briefly told her brother everything that had happened to her. "I can't believe Edward was able to take away your parental rights so easily. You're not some kind of speechless creature. Why didn't you tell the court about him beating you? He's looking at real time for that. If it was easy, I wouldn't be sitting here crying on your shoulder. He's bought. He's a thug, I know it, but I don't have any proof. I don't have to tell you that money can buy a bald man or intimidate anyone. All right?" Robert jumped up and paced the living room. "I can accept that Edward managed to bribe the custody and the court, but why didn't you ever record the beatings? It's such a bargaining chip against your ex-husband. He wouldn't have been able to get away with it. The police would have had to make a case against him. You think I didn't see a doctor?" Sadly, Olivia grinned. "What's the use? I've been to the police and the clinic, and the beatings were recorded, and then all the evidence mysteriously disappeared. And here and there they just throw up their hands. I walked around with broken ribs and bruises on half my face, and the doctor looked at me with honest eyes and said, 'How do I know who broke your ribs? Maybe you fell yourself, and now you're blaming a good man?' I knocked on closed doors. Nobody cared about me. It's like there are no decent people left, only corrupt and inhuman officials. I'm sorry, But your whole story sounds like bullshit. You're not registered at a mental institution by any chance. How could I not? He put me down as a drug addict. I'm also registered with a narcologist, even though they didn't even take a test to put me there. You have no idea how much paperwork I had to do to get Brian to stay with me. And what do you think? The guardianship office told me in no uncertain terms that I could put these papers on the bathroom wall and they wouldn't let them go through. They didn't even make a big deal about Edward paying them. So what are you going to do? What can I do? Olivia shrugged. You're not going to give up, are you? We have to come up with a plan to get Brian. Robert, I'm begging you, stay out of this. You have no idea what a scary man Edward is. An acquaintance who helped me escape then went missing. Another man who counseled me before the trial had his car burned. I don't want to lose you. Edward, enjoying complete impunity, is afraid of nothing and no one. Well, if we can't get my nephew back legally, we'll use their methods. What are you up to? The woman asked fearfully. Let's do it this way. Robert looked at his watch. It's already a long time, and I have to work tomorrow. So I need to get some sleep. You stay at my place. There's nowhere to go anyway. We'll decide in the morning. Tomorrow we'll decide what we're going to do. At breakfast, Robert said, I'll go to the police station. There's a man who owes me a favor. I'll make some inquiries about your ex-husband. I can't believe you can't find a weak spot to nail him on. How can he help us? Olivia perked up. She hadn't slept well the night before, with thoughts of Edward, her son, and the sudden appearance of her brother. No offense, but I still don't believe your story. I need proof. If you went to the police, we'll know about it. Then it'll be bad news for the man who got the battery case dismissed. We'll try to pull that thread. The woman spent the day alone. Her nerves were frayed. She cleaned the apartment, cooked lunch and dinner, trying to keep herself busy. There was nothing worse, waiting and catching up. She repeated from time to time, flinching at every rustle. Finally, the lock on the door clicked. Robert? Olivia hurried to meet her brother. I'm exhausted. What took you so long? Did you find out anything? Did you find any proof that what I said was true? She literally bombarded her brother with questions. Wait, Robert smiled. Let me at least take my clothes off. We're not going to talk in the hallway, are we? I'm sorry. The woman was embarrassed. You're tired. Come in. I've got dinner ready. Robert had a little snack, and then, not to bore his sister, who was sitting like on pins and needles from excitement, he spoke. Well, sister, your case is not so hopeless. I managed to find out that your ex-husband has a criminal case. Turns out, 2 weeks before you ran away, Edward bought a house for a lot of money. Now the question is, where did he get that kind of money? I thought he had some kind of business. Olivia answered confused. He makes good money. But I don't know what kind of business. We've never discussed it. Here we come to the main thing. Robert looked at his sister triumphantly. His business was just a front that allowed him to do all sorts of dirty deeds. Edward had never been afraid of anything, knew he could always get away with it. And if he had to, he'd get his thugs on someone, and they'd use force to solve any situation. I realized too late who my husband was. Bitterly, Olivia confessed. We already had Brian. Where was I supposed to go? I don't blame you for anything. Calm down, sis. Robert smiled encouragingly. Olivia had already found a job, and she was ashamed to be on her brother's back. One night the phone rang. It was strange. Olivia tensed. The number was unfamiliar. Hackett, her brother advised her. What if it's an important call? Olivia, hello? It's Michael. A woman heard it. Michael? Olivia asked fearfully. I don't know any Michael. I'm with Edward, the security guard. Do you remember me? Yes, I do. The image of a big ombel appeared before her eyes. What do you want from me? Did Edward send you? We need to talk. The man answered briefly. Can you meet me? It's very important and urgent. I don't have much time. Who is it? The brother asked with one eye. The guard Edward. He is asking for a meeting. Olivia answered Robert's mute question with her hand on the receiver. Say yes, whispered the brother. We need to find out what he wants from you. All right, let's meet. Olivia gave the address of a cafe away from her brother's house, just in case. Did he say what the conversation would be about? Robert asked. No, he didn't say anything at all. I have no idea what he wants. This is the most loyal assistant of the ex-husband. If you're afraid, I can come with you? No, don't. He might get scared and not say anything if he sees you following him. I don't think he's planning something against me. Why call, make an appointment, when you can be followed in the street? Staying home, I'll go alone. And Michael glanced quickly at Olivia, said nothing, and continued. She was accidentally discovered by a passing driver. She was lying on the curb in the rain, bloody and unconscious. Michael gritted his teeth. The girl had survived, but was disabled. She's bedridden. That's my sister, my Mary. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Olivia looked sympathetically at the man. What about Edward? Was he found? Did he help the girl, track her down, pay for her treatment? Did he? Michael hesitated, glanced at her again quickly, tried to clean up his tracks, sent the car in question straight to the wrecking yard, and no evidence. There were no witnesses to the hit and run. Mary doesn't remember anything. The police refused to even file a case. If a miracle happened and someone took over the investigation, just for show, they wouldn't go into detail. Lawyers' fees, the police are all paid for years in advance, a fact Edward didn't even hide. Wait, Olivia was stunned. So you didn't even file a report? What's the point? No one saw the car, no one saw the accident, and if anyone did, they'll keep quiet. You know as well as I do what Edward does to witnesses. How did you know it was Edward who did this to your sister and not someone else? I didn't realize it right away, of course. I first got suspicious when I saw the commemorative car, and I compared some facts myself, and I questioned Mary. And then Edward spoke up, bragging that no one would ever know how he'd hit the girl. I mean, fools walk around, and then you have to answer for them. Michael was silent, drawing inconceivable patterns on the table with a teaspoon. Can you imagine? The man spoke softly. He had left Mary to die on the side of the road like a stray dog, didn't see fit to stop and at least see if she was alive. Olivia's heart was bleeding, seeing how hard it was for him to remember. I made up my mind a long time ago. He looked straight into Olivia's eyes. I could have dealt with Edward right away. He doesn't even know Mary is my sister. I'm not afraid of prison, but he stopped. Mary has no one but me. Her parents are long dead. Who's going to look after her? You know what I mean? I do. I'm sorry about your sister. If there's anything I can do to help her, I can't go through the paperwork myself. Michael interrupted the woman. Edward's arms are too long. I'm not afraid for myself. But Mary, what about you? I'm sure you can handle the information properly. What if my husband finds out it was you who gave me the documents? Will he never think of me for who I am? He grinned. A speechless, dumb bastard who only knows how to swing his fists and turn a steering wheel. If you don't tell him, Edward won't know, will he? The man stared at Olivia. He won't find out from me, she assured him. You don't have to worry. Okay. Michael stood up resolutely from the table. I gotta go. Remember, you and I have never met. If anything goes wrong, I won't even admit under penalty of death that I gave you the documents. My sister's life is the most important thing to me. You bet I won't tell anyone who I got the documents from. Michael stood there for a while, as if still doubting that he had done the right thing. Then he walked resolutely out of the cafe. Olivia saw him get into his car and drive away. Thank you, kind man, she whispered after him. You're saving not only your sister, but also my child. She sat at the table for a while, finished her long cold coffee, and then went home. Hurry up and tell me. Robert hurried her when she entered the apartment. How did it go? What did he want from you? Here. Olivia solemnly placed a black folder on the table. It's some papers Michael said would help me get my son back. Give it to me. The brother took a quick look at the documents. With each passing minute, the sinister smile on his face grew wider and wider. That's it. The cage is shut. The bird is caught. These papers are worthless. He hugged his sister, whirled her around the room. Now your ex-husband will go to jail for a long time. Don't doubt it. We'll nail him to the fullest. Even money won't help him get away with it. And what are the documents? Olivia asked impatiently. What's in them? Remember, I told you about the scheme by which Edward defrauded the depositors, declaring himself bankrupt. Then the investigation had a weak evidence base. He received only a suspended sentence. Top defense lawyers did their best. So now we have ironclad proof of his guilt. Not even the fact that he is the guardian of a minor child can save him. There's no way he's going to get away with this. Robert smiled wickedly. I'll do my best to make sure he does, and he'll go to prison for a long time. Edward, of course, will try again to pressure someone, pay someone, even intimidate someone. You and I know about all his methods, his persuasion, but I don't think the patrons will back him this time. No reason for them to risk their heads and their reputations, so it looks like he's done for. Hang in there, sister. It won't be long before we can savor the victory. And Brian will come back to me? Olivia was worried. Don't doubt it. Those who took him from you must be punished. Oh my God! I clasped my hands together. How I long to hold my boy. I miss him so much. He's all alone. I can imagine what he's been through. I'll have to be patient, of course, but in such a delicate matter, there's no rush. We must think it over, calculate everything, so that Edward and his assistants could not find a single loophole. We will not give them the opportunity to turn around and get away with it again. The very next day, the documents were on the desk of the investigative committee of the prosecutor's office. Everything turned out as Robert had envisioned. Strong patrons turned away from Edward. Even money was powerless before the undeniable facts. A few months later, there was a tumultuous trial. A guilty verdict. The judge read out the verdict and imposed a sentence of imprisonment with confiscation of property in favor of defrauded depositors. Edward didn't believe until the last minute that he'd get a real sentence. As if in a fog, he listened to the verdict. The defendant is to be taken into custody in the courtroom. No, the convict screamed, I can't go to prison. You don't understand. You don't know who I am? I'm all of you here. Didn't I pay you all enough? He looked wildly at the judge, at the hall where the witnesses in the case were sitting, trying not to meet his gaze. His recent associates, who by sheer luck had escaped punishment. I'm gonna find out who leaked me. I'm gonna go back and kill every traitor. You think I can't get you? You don't know me very well. You bastards. The convoy handcuffed him, passing Olivia, who was attending the trial. Edward stopped and hissed angrily. Are you triumphant? I will come out and destroy you, you creature. I'm not afraid of you." Calmly, looking him straight in the eye, the woman replied, "And from the looks of it, you won't be coming out any time soon." Edward was led out of the hall, shouting, swearing, sending curses, but no one listened to him. A lot had changed in Olivia's life. Her brother helped her hire a lawyer, and he got the divorce case reviewed. The woman not only got her son back, but also some of her property. It was a domino effect. It was like the investigators were just waiting for the right moment. They began to consider a chain of criminal cases involving Edward. In the evening, sitting in the living room of her own apartment, the woman held her son close to her, as if she was afraid of losing him again, and talked to her brother. "Robert, how happy I am that you have found yourself. Now I know for sure that I am not alone. You and Brian, my family." She looked at him affectionately. "Thank you so much for everything you have done for us. Without you, there is no way I could have handled Edward." "Don't say that in front of your son." Her brother reprimanded her. "You're strong, I know. You would have fought to the end on your own. I still don't understand how I could have loved him. I didn't just love him, I was sick of him, and then I didn't notice how I became a hostage to that love. I wanted so much to be happy. Olivia, it's not your fault, and don't bring up Edward. All the bad stuff is over. Brian is by your side, and your ex-husband is where he belongs. He can't hurt you anymore. You're young, you're beautiful, you're gonna be happy. You're right, we're in for good times. I have nothing to fear now. Think about the future. You've got a son to worry about. Forget the past." "No, Robert, there's something else I have to do, and I need your help again." "What is it?" "I need you to help me find a very good person. It's a girl, her name is Mary. I want to meet her." "Who is she?" "She's Michael's sister. We'll find her, we'll find her. We owe Michael our lives. I'd do anything for him." In the ward of the home for the disabled, a young woman was sitting in a chair. Her legs were covered with a plaid, a book on her lap, but she wasn't reading. Her gaze was fixed on the windows. Apparently, she was waiting for someone in the gray. There was sadness in her gray, pensive eyes. The door creaked open, and the girl tensed, looking hopefully at the entrant. "Mary, there's someone here to see you," the young nurse said. "Michael?" The patient's pale face lit up with a faint smile, and she immediately revived. "Hurry up. No, there's a strange woman with a child. That's strange." The smile immediately fled from her face. The joy that had flashed in her eyes faded, and the girl immediately lost interest in the nurse. "I'm not waiting for anyone, and I don't want to see anyone. They asked me to take them in. What should I say?" "All right." The young woman shrugged her shoulders. "Let them come in since they came. Let's see what they need from me." The girl disappeared, and a few minutes later there was a knock at the door. Mary was alert. "Hello." A pretty woman appeared on the doorstep. She was holding a child's hand tightly. "Mary, my name is Olivia, and this is my son Brian." "Hello." Surprised to see the visitor, Mary replied. "Do we know each other?" "No." The woman smiled at her. "But I came to thank you." "I don't understand." "Thank me for what?" "For your brother. He saved me and my son." "That sounds like Michael." A sad smile appeared on the young woman's face. "Why hasn't he come himself?" "I've been waiting and waiting for him, and he hasn't come. Did something happen to him?" "No." Olivia hurried to reassure her. "He's fine. Michael doesn't know we've tracked you down yet. I just wanted to do something to help him. You don't have anyone else besides your brother, do you? I know you find it strange that we're here. Michael will tell you later, but in the meantime, can Brian and I visit you?" "As you wish." Mary looked at the visitors incredulously. "I'm told you're supposed to be going for a walk now." The weather is nice, so I suggest we go out and get some fresh air and get to know each other." Mary thought for a moment, then smiled and nodded in agreement. Olivia popped the stroller outside and walked down the alley deep into the garden. They talked a lot, little Brian walking beside them. With each step, Mary's face grew brighter and calmer.
Subscribe and click the bell.
Sam walked sluggishly home. He already knew that he was going to be punished by his father. The boy was angry not so much at his father William, who would punish him, but at his sister Nancy, who had told his father everything. And the thing is, Sam's dad fixed the old tape recorder, and he was very proud of it. William kept his rarity in his shed, which he used as a workshop. The man forbade the children to enter the building in his absence. However, as they say, forbidden fruit is sweet, and Sam and Nancy, and when Dad was fishing, secretly went into the workshop. The boy was more interested in hooks for swimming trunks, but Nancy wanted to listen to the tape recorder. She asked her brother to help her turn it on. Sam complied with the request. A song came on, but after a few minutes the sound became disgusting. Nancy, 9 years old, capriciously said to her brother Sam. Sam had already picked up his fishing gear and wanted to run to his friend Ben's house sooner to go to the lake. But his sister wouldn't let him go and begged him to help fix the tape recorder. Sam realized that he could not get rid of Nancy just like that and suggested to her that you can fix the tape recorder yourself. And after this phrase, the boy explained what parts should be greased in the tape recorder. Nancy, hearing her brother's words, agreed, nodded, and clapped her hands joyfully. Sam looked at his sister with a smirk and added, "Just be careful not to overdo it with the oil. And don't stay here too long, so that your father doesn't catch you here, or you'll be full of mushrooms." Well, I'm out of here. Ben's already raising me. And after that, the 14-year-old boy jumped out of the barn and ran to his friend's house. Sam hoped that his sister would be out before his father got there, but the opposite happened. The guy and Ben had already been sitting at the lake for about 2 hours when he saw Nancy walking towards them. Sam immediately suspected something wrong and shouted to her, "What's wrong? Is your father waiting for you at home?" "Why?" asked the teenager tensely. "He came in earlier than usual today and found me in the barn. I was just turning on the tape recorder. Dad got angry and asked me if you were here. And I said yes, you could have kept me here. Why did he come home so early? I didn't ask him that." And now Sam was walking home, realizing what he was about to get from his father. Only the teenager entered the courtyard, followed by his sister, as William raised his eyebrows at the sea of questions about who allowed him to enter the workshop in his absence. Sam quietly replied that no one had. And then the father asked a completely unexpected question to the teenager. "How did you advise your sister to fix the tape recorder?" The boy looked perplexed at his father and told William listen to his son, and then threateningly said that advice should be given wisely. And as it turned out, Nancy lubricated the tape recorder, but only with butter. Sam glanced glumly at her sister. She saw her brother's angry look and said tearfully, "But you didn't tell me what kind of oil to use." "My father explained to me later that in these cases they use machine oil." After this incident, William gave the boy a few slaps and forbade the party for 3 days. Nancy, on the other hand, received no punishment. Her father explained that she was not at fault in this case, as she was still young and acting on the orders of her older brother. And it happened often that Sam received more from her father than Nancy. Soon the summer was over and it was school time. Brother and sister started school. Sam often teased Nancy, for which he often received from his father. The boy was angry at his sister. What was she? "I poor Dad and thought all the time how to get back at her. And then he got his chance. Nancy was to have a race for a certain distance, and she and her friend wanted to win in this event. The girl turned to her brother to think of a way to do it. Sam thought for a while and then told his sister there was only one way to finish first. To do that, before the race, put red pepper between your buttocks. But make sure you don't start the race before the signal. Don't tell anyone about my advice, or you'll be the first to finish." The day after the race, Sam was summoned to the school principal's office with his father. As it turned out, Nancy shared this advice with her friend, and the two of them used Sam's method. The girls won the race, but after the finish line they ran around the school for a few more laps. Nancy did not tell her mom and dad about her brother's advice, but her friend informed her parents, who immediately reacted and appealed to the principal of the school. And naturally, after another incident, Sam received a beating from his father. And as always, the punishment in the form of a ban on walking for several days. The guy after this case gave himself a vow that he would no longer tease his sister. Time passed, but Sam still occasionally teased Nancy, for which of course received. And yet he found a way to wean his sister off. My poor father, when the teenager once again teased Nancy, and she complained to Dad that the guy early in the morning before school to blow his nose in the school uniform of his sister. Sam immediately informed the girl that he would do so every time Nancy wanted to inform her father about his pranks. And Nancy just tolerated all of her older brother's antics after that. Sam teased his sister until he turned 16. And as soon as the teenager celebrated his birthday, it was as if he was replaced. The guy began to carefully monitor his appearance. This was noticed even by his father, who casually said to his son, "You, just as if you want to become the first guy in the village. You must have fallen in love that you are always hanging around the mirror." Sam only wanted to answer his father, but then Nancy appeared, who heard his father's words and reacted immediately. The girl said in a sarcastic tone, "Sam wants to show off to the new teacher who told him that he is growing up handsome." The years flew by imperceptibly, and soon Sam graduated from school. The young man already knew very well that he had a handsome appearance, as he had been told about it many times by his mother's acquaintances, as well as by girls from the village. Sam's friend, when he heard compliments in his friend's direction, wrinkled his nose in displeasure and said, "You're lucky you have good looks. You can finish any king. I'm not interested in that. I want to live large, and I'm not in danger of it, because now I'll go to college, get a profession, and earn little. Is that a life? I want to ride on a yacht, go to restaurants, travel abroad." Oh, where are you going?" Benjamin said with a laugh. "A normal dream for a good-looking guy. Maybe you want to twist the tails of cows in the countryside. I don't like that kind of work. Don't get all hot and bothered. If you want to live a nice life, you've got a chance. I'll use my looks and seduce a rich girl. And then you'll live a good life. I'll have to think about your proposal, but it won't work. I don't intend to get married and have screaming children who need diapers changed every half hour." Soon Sam entered college in the city, and from the village the boy left with a light heart. It was only difficult for him to part with his sister, over whom at one time he often stirred. The young man, though, joked about Nancy, but loved her very much, and if anyone offended her, he always stood up for her. Time flew by, and Sam graduated from college. The young man did not want to return home, as he did not see any prospects there. So he stayed in the city, rented a room for two with a student, and after that he got a job at the factory as a fitter. As soon as the guy worked for a week, he called his sister and told her how he was doing at the moment, and asked Nancy to tell his news to his parents. The girl promised to let her mom and dad know everything. She then inquired how he was doing on the personal front. Sam laughed and said that, like in the village, there were girls running after him in droves. Nancy smiled in return and said, "I didn't expect any other answer. You're a handsome boy, but be careful with your nighttime activities, or you'll be a father of many children at your age. It's too early for me to try on the role of a father," he said with a laugh, and immediately asked his sister if she had a boyfriend. Nancy indignantly replied that she was being courted by a young man, but that she was still thinking about it. After working for 6 years, Sam sighed doubtfully, for in that time he had not been able to save even $200. And all because of the fact that it was necessary to pay utilities, rent a room, as well as to eat and travel to work. And at the same time wanted to go to a nightclub to have fun. In this regard, Ben's suggestion popped up on the young man's mind that it was possible to take advantage of his appearance and charm a rich girl who would pay for his whims. Sam saw nothing objectionable in this. After all, he was not going to steal from anyone. The guy made a decision, and all he had to do was to find a girl from a wealthy family. He decided to find a rich person in a nightclub. Sam thought that such a contingent most often hangs out there, and the next day in the evening, the young man went to such an establishment. Sam took a not strong cocktail and stood at the counter. The guy looked closely at the fair sex, as well as what they were wearing and how they behaved. He thought that if a girl was from a rich family, she should be in a strong outfit and behave relaxed. And at one point he was attracted to such a person. The girl was dressed in a golden top leather black skirt, with 2 slits on the sides. She danced with a friend, holding in one hand a flute with a cocktail. The girl laughed casually. Guys often approached her, but she immediately opened them with a glance. Sam decided to try his hand at courtship and approached the stranger. The guy raised his glass to the top and, trying to shout over the music, said that he was raising a flute to the pristine beauty. The girl looked at him with interest, but immediately asked him to back off. The young man inwardly traits, but did not back off and said, "I understand that damn beautiful young ladies so and should behave towards you himself. And if for a moment to imagine that I am not from this contingent and give me a chance to interchange with you a couple of phrases, I'm interested. Besides, you're cute too. What do you want to get me a drink? Actually, I'm used to being served by the ladies. But in this case, let's make an exception. Let's go to the bar and choose. Are you a ladies' man?" The stranger said with surprise. Sam realized that he had said something stupid. He quickly realized that it was necessary to save the situation. Therefore, the first thing that came to mind, said to the interlocutor, "Why so rude? I just have a high demand from the fair sex. Sometimes I'd even have to fight back. Now I see you are Naburiotsia Price." With a laugh said the girl, and then added, "How cocky are you? Come on, let's go to the bar." Soon the couple stood near the bar and sipped a cocktail. They chatted casually. Sam learned that the girl's name is Lily. She's 19 years old, studying at university. Her father is a big official and her mom is an entrepreneur. The young man, having learned the details of the internal, was jubilant that he made the right choice when he approached the girl. Then the couple danced and, already for 0 o'clock, left the night establishment. The young people went outside and the girl headed for a foreign car. The guy remained standing in place. Lily turned around and asked why he was frozen like a statue. Sam said he was uncomfortable with the girl driving the car by herself. Lily laughed and said, "Do you know how to drive? Then get in the driver's seat and I will show you where to go." Soon the young people arrived at the given address. The couple walked into the 2-room apartment they had previously owned. Sam immediately assessed the surroundings. He mentally instructed himself that it was necessary to please this girl this night so that she would want to meet again. And there the guy decided that he would figure out how to manipulate her. Sam's plan succeeded. The next morning when he woke up, there was a cup of coffee and a plate of fat in front of him. The girl sat next to it and looked at him adoringly. The man sipped the flavored drink and immediately heard you were inimitable. "Let's spend the whole day together, drive around the city, go to decent cafes, and then come back to my place. Your offer is tempting, but I can't afford the pleasures of life. You know that. Who told you you'd be paying? I'm the one who proposes it, so I'm the one who finances it." Lily said with a smile. "Maybe you'll give me some cash. It's a bit awkward having a girl pay for you, isn't it? I like the way you think. We'll go to an ATM. I'll withdraw the money, and you'll pay for all the services yourself." After that day, Sam started seeing the girl a lot. They'd been dating for a little over 2 months. Lily gave money to the guy, but it was small amounts. And all because of the fact that the girl was financially dependent on her parents' money. Sam didn't like that. He wanted the mistress to be independent of others, and her money was managed by herself. That is why the young man decided to part with Lily. When they met again, he told her about it, which caused a flurry of emotions. And then the unexpected statement of the girl, "You cannot leave me, as I am pregnant by you." That's a lie. What's the point of me lying to you? So you have to terminate the pregnancy because I'm not going to be a father. If you go against my will and have a baby, you won't get much since I have a small salary. The young man said stiffly and left the apartment. Later he found out that Lily had lied about the baby. She just wanted to keep the guy close to her. However, after such a statement, Sam concluded for himself that in the future it is necessary to use contraception. Now that the guy realized what kind of girl he needed, he decided that it was necessary to look for her not in a nightclub, but through a marriage agency. And soon he already had enough applicants. He chose a prettier woman, who was 34 years old. After a while, the man sat with the girl in a cafe and had a nice conversation. He actually liked her. It was a slender brunette with refined facial features. Her name was Betty. From the girl, the young man learned that she is an entrepreneur, has her own boutique, lives in a 2-room apartment in a dormitory district. She has a Chevrolet automobile. Betty asked the young man to tell her about himself. The young man did not make up anything about himself and told it like it is. His biography, the woman after his story looked at him thoughtfully, and then said, "And why are you so handsome? And do not get acquainted with peers. With them is not interesting. I am more attracted to women who are wise and like to talk to them. There's something to talk about and it's nice to enjoy. What about you? I see you're a frank young man. Well, let's try to meet you. Maybe we can make the perfect family." The couple started dating. Betty was good with Sam. He could turn an ordinary day into a holiday. With his noble character, the man also enjoyed socializing with the woman, and he often teased her like he used to tease his sister. Betty took no offense at Sam for this, until a certain point. It was when the couple was already dating. For the 3rd month, Betty was at work, as the downstairs neighbor called and said that she was being flooded from her apartment. The woman immediately closed her store and hurried home, calling the plumber in advance to come. Betty entered the apartment and hurried to the bathroom, but there was no water running. She went to the kitchen, but it was dry there too. The woman shrugged her shoulders perplexedly and wanted to go to her neighbor to find out why she had deceived her. But then Sam came out of the room to her and said, "See how great I've made your day off. I should call and tell her you're flooding the neighbor. How are you already here? Do you realize what you're doing? I called the plumber, and now I'm gonna have to pay for a false alarm. I got ripped out of work on a Sunday when it's busiest, which means at this time I'll lose the opportunity to sell something and therefore no income. I don't understand how a neighbor could go along with your scam and call me and collect it. What's there to understand?" With a smile said the guy and continued, "Money makes everything. I paid my neighbor to make that call. You're laughing. I give you money and you spend it recklessly. You're your own beggar's brood. And in a way, I'm even supporting you. Maybe you think there's no substitute for you. Then you're sorely mistaken. Whoa, you're gonna insult me now. Look, I can leave. Good riddance. You weren't gonna start a family with me anyway." After saying that, Sam spit over his shoulder, threw the keys to the apartment and left. The man thought that Betty would cool down after a while and call. But that didn't happen. The young man would have called himself, but he was stopped by Betty for insults. Sam feared that the woman could call him a beggar one more time, and he would not be able to hold back. After the unsuccessful affair with Betty, a couple of months passed, and Sam reapplied to the marriage office. But now the guy decided for himself that it is necessary to look for a woman who does not shine beauty, and come up with a legend that she gave a large sum, and after receiving the finances simply evaporate from her life. Sam soon selected a candidate named Emily. He met the woman in a cafe. As in the first case, the young man tried to be with Emily, courteous while skillfully giving her compliments. In conversation with the woman, he learned that she was 36 years old. She owns an atelier, lives Emily, in a 2-bedroom apartment, has a car, and she has a 9-year-old son growing up. Sam told a legend about himself that he's in the construction business. He has a brigade, although in fact he continued to work at the factory, lives in another city, and here he rents a room. And also the man told the interlocutor that he loves classical music. Sam specifically said this, as he read in the woman's profile that she was partial to this genre. When the man said about his hobby, Emily looked at the young man with interest, which did not escape the interlocutor. They spent the first 2 weeks just spending time talking about various topics. And soon Emily offered Sam to stay overnight at her place. The man was not excited about the relationship with this woman, but he stubbornly went to his goal to get money from her. And what annoyed the guys the most was that he had to listen to classical music, which he hadn't liked since childhood. It had been more than 2 weeks since Sam had taken up residence at Emily's place, and he decided it was time to act or else. When the woman once again turned on classical music under the night's entertainment, he would just break all the discs. The man came to Emily in a tortured state. The woman immediately noticed that the lover was not in the mood. She asked what had happened. The young man began to ask the landlady not to worry about him. However, Emily saw that the man was eating something, and the woman persistently asked her lover what happened. "I have a little problem at work, but I do not want to burden you with them. You have enough worries of your own. Spit it out. How do you not realize that your problems, they become my problems too? Or are you saying that when you talked about living together, it was just words? How could you think I was lying to you? Of course I love you. I just wanted to keep you out of trouble. But if you insist, I'll tell you. Anyway, I had a little hiccup at work, and I pay my workers at the end of every week. And right now I don't have any money, and I need a lot. It's not much, but it's a lot. We're not hackers," the man said, and then voiced how much money is needed. Emily thought for a moment, and then smiled softly and said, "It's not that much. I will give you the money, but only in a couple of days. Now just smile and don't be sad about it anymore." "Thank you, my sonny," smiled, said Sam, and kissed the woman gently on the lips. And to himself mentally damned that he asked for too small an amount. 2 days later, Emily brought the money to her lover. The man thanked the woman and thought that tomorrow his torment would be over, because he would no longer return to this apartment and would not hear this hateful classical music, from which he was already sick. Sam said goodbye to Emily the next day as usual. He said that he would be home at the proper time in the evening, and then he discreetly gathered his things and slipped out of the apartment. Then he bought a new SM card and vanished from Emily's life forever. In the shower after leaving the woman, the man wished her mentally that she would meet a decent man who would listen to classical music with her. The money he had gotten was enough to live at his pleasure for 3 months. Now the young man thought that it was necessary to save up as much money as possible in order to open his own business in the future. Sam did not yet know exactly what kind of business he wanted to have, but he decided for himself that he would definitely become an entrepreneur. When the money ran out, Sam wanted to go to the same marriage office again. But then he realized that it was not worth it. He didn't even realize why he decided that, and now the man was on his way to another agency. Sam just wanted to stop by the agency. How did his cell phone ring? It was the sister. The guy answered and immediately heard the happy voice of Nancy. "Hey, little brother, I'm getting married in a month. I look forward to your congratulations. Is your beau right to propose?" "That's right. He came yesterday to ask me to marry him. So my sister will soon be wearing a wedding ring on her fingers. And congratulations. I'll be owed a tidy sum by the day of the wedding. And you're still living off women. Why don't you stop doing that? It's not going to end well. Nancy, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. All right, I'll call you later. They're waiting for me at the office." And after that, the man disconnected the connection. And at the same moment, he thought that he was in time to express his desire to visit the marriage office again. After all, his sister must be given the money. Soon Sam was already sitting in the cafe again and got acquainted with another woman, whose name was Vanessa. The man told about the fact that he worked in a construction company and that he was a vegetarian. Sam also learned about this from the woman's profile after his story. Sam invited the interviewee to inform him about herself. The woman smiled and then looked at him with a rather frank look, as if undressing the man, and told him her biography. She said that she was 35 years old, worked as a storekeeper, and had a store selling cosmetics. She lives in a 2-room apartment, where in addition to her 2 parrots live. The woman also said that she has been married twice, but life didn't work out. Sam noticed the look with which the woman examined him at the meeting and immediately realized that this lady had not been in bed with a man for a long time. This fact pleased Sam, as it meant that the candy bouquet relationship would not last long. When Sam listened to Vanessa, he immediately realized that he had not heard from her whether she had a car, so he asked her about it under a plausible pretext. The woman smiled and said, "I have a car, but I don't drive." The car has been in the garage for about 5 years. The thing is that my second husband and I were in an accident. And ever since then, I've been afraid to drive myself. That's okay. You'll get over it with me, and I think you will. But maybe we'll switch to you so it is more interesting to communicate," said the smart woman and threw a leg over a leg. "As you say, my queen." And on the same day, Vanessa invited Sam to her home. The man found himself at the woman's apartment, exulted that it was so easy to charm this person. In the meantime, Vanessa offered to pass to the young man in the hall and settle down as at home. What Sam did. After a while, entered the living room and the owner of the apartment, who had changed into a short silk robe of azure color. The woman was holding a tray with a bottle of wine, a couple of glasses, and a vase with various fruits. When the man saw all this, he hurried to help Vanessa carry it to the coffee table. The couple then took a seat in the armchair that faced each other. Sam looked at the woman, and once again it hit him. The thought that there would be a lot of money to be made out of this very spectacle, but it was only necessary to act wisely. And with these thoughts he filled his glasses and made a toast. To our future together. And to himself he wished himself a speedy and successful completion of the scam. A few days went by when Sam moved in with Vanessa. He had no idea that this woman was so insatiable in bed. It seemed to him that she was squeezing all the juices out of him. The man couldn't say it didn't suit him. He loved it, loved being with Vanessa, but annoying and different. Namely, that he had to physically work hard at his job and then at night fulfill his manly duties without eating any meat. Sam realized that in this way he would soon die. That's why right after the factory he started to go to Cafes, where he bought himself a meat-calorie dish. Time moved imperceptibly, and his sister's wedding day was approaching. Sam realized that it was time to act further, and he decided to continue in the same spirit as it was last time. The man, as always, came home from work in a dejected state. He tried not to speak much verbally to Vanessa. And naturally, the woman became alarmed and began to question him. Sam at first denied and said that everything was fine, but then he confessed that there was not enough money to pay the workers' wages. The woman recognized the man's amount and said that she had some savings, but it would not be enough to cover the wages. Sam replied that it would be possible to give at least some money to the workers, and then he would make it on his own. The man promised that he would pay back all the money soon. Vanessa withdrew the money and gave it to her lover. Sam thanked the woman and said that he had to go home for a few days, as his mother was ill. Vanessa sympathized with her lover and wished her mother a speedy recovery before leaving. Sam soon left for home, but only not to check up on his mother, as she was short, but to get to his sister's wedding. And here he is already in the registry office and watches Nancy exchanging wedding rings with the groom. And then the guests and relatives give a friendly shout to the newlyweds, bitterly and bitterly. Then everyone goes to the cafe, where the feast begins and the celebration is in full swing. The toastmaster announces that it is necessary to congratulate the young. Guests and relatives begin to put envelopes with money on the tray. When the turn comes to Sam, he rises and says, "I do not know how to say beautiful words in such cases, but I would like you to use the contents of this envelope to go to a resort and have a good vacation." The man then places a rather impressive envelope on the tray and then takes a seat at the table. On the second day of the wedding, the sister discreetly approaches her brother and asks him to step aside with her. She whisperingly asks him if he robbed a bank. The man laughs and replies that he didn't. Nancy embarrassedly says that he gave so much money that he could go to the sea and buy a dishwasher to top it off. Sam hugs his sister and wishes her nothing but happiness in her married life. The next day, the man leaves the village and goes to Vanessa in the city. He brought some goodies from home to treat the woman and let her know that he really went to see his mother. Vanessa is happy to meet her lover and passionately whispers in his ear that she missed him tremendously. It was more than 2 months before Sam started living with Vanessa. The man realized that it was time to act further, but he could not think of a strategy to borrow money from the landlady. But he was helped in this by the woman herself, with an unexpected question: "Dear, how are you doing in the construction company?" "Not bad. Why do you ask?" "Because you borrowed money from me to pay the workers' salaries." So I thought if you're doing well, I could pay you back. I'm just saying that because you can put the money back in the bank for interest. It makes sense. You're right. I'm such a fool for borrowing money and not paying it back. And you probably think I'm a fraud now because of that, don't you? I didn't think so. Now I feel guilty for asking. Stop saying that. You know, I just think you and I need to expand our business. Maybe I should take out a loan to start a second construction firm. And then you and I can go on our honeymoon to the coast. I have another suggestion. Why pay extra interest when you can sell my car, which is worthless? You've got your money's worth, and we'll get you an expensive car. You got a point. Then maybe you wait with the money I'd borrowed from you. They're just in circulation. But if you want, I can pull it out at any time. You don't have to pay me back in this case. We just decided that we're going to move on in terms of material resources. Soon Vanessa sold the car and handed the money over to Sam. The man, as usual, thanked the woman, and after 3 days he retreated from her apartment. When he left the house, he looked back at the windows of the second floor, where he lived for several months, and mentally wished Vanessa to find a worthy life partner and be happy with him. It was only after that that Sam went on with ease. This time Sam kept a small amount of the proceeds from the sale of the car to live on. The rest of his finances he put under interest. The man knew that he needed to save up a certain amount of money so that he could start his own business. A couple of months passed and Sam went to the marriage agency again. And again he met a woman. Courtship and then a short stay. After the legend that there is not enough money to pay his salary and, as a consequence, to get money. True, this time the man did not get as much money as in the case of Vanessa. After some time, Sam visited the marriage agency again, and again he had good luck. Sam was happy that everything was going so smoothly for him, and he was going towards his goal. The man realized that he would not live like this all the time, that he was doing this for the sake of achieving his goal. But at the same time, Sam, somewhere in the depths of his soul, dreamed of meeting the one and only one with whom he would like to connect his life and go through all the joys and sorrows with her. However, for so many years, no woman really touched his heart, and sometimes the man wondered if maybe he wasn't meant to truly know love. A few months had passed since his last relationship with a woman. Sam was on his way to his rented room after work when his sister called him. The man happily answered and immediately asked how she was doing. Nancy at the same moment interrupted her brother and created everything as fine. I am even doing wonderfully well. I can congratulate you as you will soon become an uncle. I'm pregnant. Can you believe it? I'm gonna be a mom. That's news. Sam said in a confused voice in response. I knew you'd be happy about it. You're going to be my godfather after a while. So try to find a bride by the time the baby is born so that my baby will have a godmother. After talking to his sister, Sam thought about it. The man involuntarily invited Nancy that she had arranged her personal life, and there was a loved one beside her. But at the same moment, he pushed these thoughts away from himself and began to think that it was time to continue the work he had started and go to the intended goal. The man soon went again to the marriage office, but only this time he reapplied to the agency, where he had previously chosen Vanessa. He thought that in that marriage office is more promising to find a rich bride, which can be easily divorced for a decent amount. And now the young man is already sitting in the office, choosing a candidate. As soon as he picked up a woman, he immediately set a date with her. However, this time Sam's scheme failed, because on the second date with the woman, whose name was Valentina, he was arrested for fraudulent actions. The man denied the charges against him. Investigator Trevor listened with a chuckle as Sam asked for evidence from the man in uniform. In response, he held out a picture of Emily and Vanessa to the detained man and pronounced these are just 2 women who have been affected by your fraudulent actions. But I think there are many more victims. These 2 citizens filed a police report, and after that, it was easy to track you down. So I suggest you now make a clean confession of all your deeds and go on with a clear conscience. But I didn't do anything wrong. I was looking for a woman to start a family with. But after living with these ladies for a while, I realized we weren't right for each other. So I left, and they offered me the money themselves as financial help. You believe yourself? You're talking nonsense right now. To begin with, you reminded these women that you work in a construction company and you need to pay your employees. That's the same story you told your new friend Wendy, who almost victimized you. I suggest you come clean, not play the groom. Believe me, we will find other women who have been victimized by your fraudulent schemes. All right, I'll tell you. Tell me, will I get much for this? Sam asked me shakily. I'm not a judge to pronounce a sentence. All I can tell you is that you'll get a fine. In any case, a prison sentence, as the court decides. But I didn't do anything to get locked up. Yes, I've lived with women whom I've given pleasure to, and they've wanted it. You have to admit, they weren't forced to date me. So why should I face jail time? Sam said with fervor. You still present yourself to me as a hero, who committed crimes for the good of the people. Let's not philosophize on this topic, said Trevor, and immediately, smiling, continued to say, you must be a passionate lover. That one of the affected women made an ambiguous proposal. This is the first time in my practice, and I am, frankly, amazed. What kind of proposal? Sam said in a perplexed voice. It's better that you find out from her. So this proposal will sound more convincing than from my words, said the investigator and offered the glory to go with him. A few minutes later, Sam entered another office where Vanessa was sitting. Trevor told the woman that she had 15 minutes and that he would wait outside the door. The visitor nodded in agreement and thanked him. As soon as the investigator left the office, Vanessa immediately rushed to hug Sam. The man stared dumbfounded at the woman. He couldn't understand how this lady could hug him after all that had happened. Sam expected from Vanessa reproaches, insults, but not this. The young man pulled away from the embrace and politely said, I'm embarrassed in front of you. I deceived you. But let's get to the point. The investigator said you have something to offer me. I want you to tell me now. Vanessa looked affectionately at her lover and said that she was ready to withdraw her application if he would fulfill her request. And then the woman said that she wanted Sam to legalize the relationship with her and also to write a receipt that he would live with her forever. She would then take it to a notary together with him. Afterwards, the visitor added that if he agrees, he will probably be given a suspended sentence, and she would help to pay the fine. The man looked at Vanessa in bewilderment, and the latter looked at him with adoration. Sam didn't know what to say. And at that moment, the investigator came into the office. He said that time was up. The woman turned to her lover for an answer, and he categorically and unexpectedly said no way in hell. And after these words, the young man got up and went to the exit. And immediately he heard from Vanessa in reply, but then don't expect any mercy. I'll ask that you get the full measure of it. As soon as Sam and the investigator left the corridor, Trevor turned to the man and asked why he had refused a lucrative offer. Sam turned to the man in uniform and, seeing a smile on his face, asked, Are you kidding me? No, just curious. Then you have no idea what it's like to work hard and then come home, eat vegetarian food, and then make love to a woman at night. But that's the way you chose to make your money. And as they say, every job has its flaws. It's been a while. Sam was waiting for his trial in the detention center, and then his sister came to check on him. She was crying and scolding her brother that he had jumped to his feet with his relationships with women. The man asked his sister not to worry and told her that he would not do it again. Nancy countered by taking him at his word that he would keep his word. Sam reluctantly promised his sister. He thought he would be given probation for his fraudulent actions. Soon the trial took place. The man's expectations were not met. Sam was sentenced by the judge for his deeds, fined and imprisoned for 1 year and 4 months. The man could not believe that he would have to spend so much time in confinement. Soon Sam was already serving his sentence. He often reflected on his life, analyzed where he had made mistakes, that he ended up behind barbed wire. And also the man dreamed that as soon as he was released, he would start a new life. After all, he promised it to his sister. Time flew by and Sam was released. His sister met him with her husband and baby. Sam, while still in prison, knew that Nancy had given birth to a baby girl who was named Kelly. So as soon as he stepped outside the prison gates, he first hugged his sister and then asked to hold his niece in his arms. Sam gently took the baby girl in his arms and looked at her face, and then said, "She's as beautiful as you are, Nancy. Now you and your husband need to think about making sure she has a protector. So start working on a baby brother for Kelly. Let your daughter grow up to at least 2 years old. And then my husband and I will consider your proposal," Nancy said with a laugh, and immediately asked her brother what he was going to do next. Sam looked at his sister seriously and replied that he was going to live and earn an honest living. Nancy nodded contentedly and said that she loved him very much and welcomed his decision. After his release, Sam took a job as a laborer on a construction site, renting a room in advance. His sister gave him money for the first time. The man promised Nancy that he would soon pay her back. The young woman laughed in response and said that there was no need to do that, as the money was a gift to him for deciding to live like a human being. It has been 2 years since Sam was released. All this time, the man felt that he was living like a robot. He went to work after going straight home, where he cooked a meager dinner, which he consumed alone. And after eating, the man sat down in front of the TV and watched all the programs indiscriminately. Glory was often approached by women who worked at the construction site for this or that help. The man was well aware that they did this for a reason, but in order to capture his attention. However, Sam was indifferent to them, as no representative of the fair sex interested him. And if he met with girls, it was a short-term relationship. And from this circumstance, the man was also not easy on his soul, his outlet. There were only conversations with his sister on the phone. And here in one of the days when Sam came home after work, the cell phone rang. It was his sister calling. He gladly answered, and the first thing he did was to ask how she was doing. The young woman told him about her daughter and also about her parents. Then she added that she had news for him. Sam was intrigued, asked if the news was good. "You asked me once about your friend." "Well, he's in the village to visit his parents. He came by and asked how you were doing. Now your friend has become a rich man, and grandfather drives a foreign car so much. I wanted to give him your phone number, but then I thought, what if you don't want me to? You should have. I'd love to talk to him. It's an easy fix. I can see him through the window, walking down the street with his wife and kid. I can call him over and you two can talk. You want to? Go ahead." And within minutes, Sam was on the phone with his friend. They talked for a while. From Benjamin's words, the man learned that he had married a woman with a child, who was an entrepreneur. And now he and his wife had opened another store where Benjamin was already the boss. And also the friend added that soon they are expecting a child together, and that he is happy in life. After the conversation with Benjamin, Sam became upset. He remembered the conversation with his friend when they graduated from high school. After all, then the friend did not even dream about a good life. But Sam had dreamed of it. And now it turned out so that Benjamin lives happily, and he is satisfied with a meager salary and still has not settled his personal life. And yet he's approaching 35 years of age. The realization of this darkened the man's mood, and he decided to go to a cafe to unwind. Sam, not thinking long, got ready and left the apartment. The man walked down the street and kept thinking how lucky his friend was in life. He didn't notice that he had walked a few blocks. And then Sam saw a restaurant in front of him. Initially, he thought that he should not come here because the prices would be huge. And at the same moment, the man mentally scolded himself, saying not loudly, out loud, once a year, "I have the right to relax in an expensive restaurant." And with these words, he entered the establishment. The man ate dinner, and then, when the waiter came up with the bill, he was suddenly horrified when he saw the amount. Sam could hardly suppress a sigh of disappointment. He took out his wallet and counted out the required amount. And as soon as he left the restaurant, he regretted that he had entered this place at all. Sam came home in a disgusted mood. He still had a residue from the conversation with his friend. The man couldn't understand why Ben, who looked unattractive, had managed to settle down so well in life, but he himself, with his charming looks, can't find a well-off girl to love. And Sam was also nervous that today he had given a lot of money in a restaurant, and all because he wanted to feel like a rich man. Time slowly moved on and another year flew by unnoticed. Sam took a vacation and went to the village to visit his relatives. As soon as the man entered the house, he saw his mother crying. Sam frowned and asked what happened. The old woman said Kelly had fallen ill. She was admitted to the regional hospital. The doctors say she has something serious and will soon need an operation, which is better done in big cities. Nancy can't find a place to be. She roars like a beluga, day and night. Why didn't she call me and tell me about this? I thought you knew everything. Crying, the mother said. Where is Nancy now? She should be back from the hospital, the old woman said mournfully and cried again. The son hugged his mother and asked her not to worry, saying that he would think of a way to help his sister. Sam, after talking to his mother, went out into the yard. The man was angry at this point at his sister for not calling and telling him everything earlier. Sam was anxiously awaiting Nancy's return so that he could talk to her about his niece's illness. It was a little over half an hour later when the man saw his sister approaching the gate. Sam hurried over to Nancy and first asked the young woman why she had hidden about Kelly's illness. Nancy looked at her brother and immediately flooded with tears. Sam put his arms around his sister. His anger at the girl had already passed at that very moment. The man realized that if he himself was so worried about his niece, what state of mind was the mother in now, thinking about her child? Sam asked his sister to sit down on the bench and tell him everything. Nancy complied with her brother's request and consistently informed him about Kelly's illness. As soon as the man knew all the details, he hugged his sister and told her that they still had time to get money for the child's surgery. Nancy looked sadly at her brother and said, "My mother-in-law has given a small amount, and so have our parents. But these finances are like a drop in the ocean. My spouse tried to take a loan from the bank, but he was approved a small amount, not what he asked for. We are now waiting for the time to take this loan. Closer to the time the doctors will say the exact time as our little one will need surgeries. Well, that's good. A little bit of everything, and we'll raise the capital. But I will ask one thing of you, that you don't do this again. You've never hidden the fact that you're in trouble from your own brother. Do you understand me?" "Yes, thank you for your support," Nancy said quietly. All evening, Sam, after talking to his sister, sat in thoughtfulness. The man absent-mindedly answered his father's or mother's questions. He wondered where he could get money. Sam realized that if he took a loan from the bank, he would not be approved for a large sum either. He also realized that it was unrealistic to borrow such a large amount of money. And then he remembered the struggle. Sam immediately went to his sister to get the number of his friend from her. Nancy looked at her brother with surprise and said, "Ben is your buddy, not mine. And I don't have his number. Go to his parents and get his phone number there. Do you want to ask him for money? It doesn't matter." "Thanks for the tip," the man said and quickly left the house. Soon Sam went to the parents of a friend, where he learned the number of the buddy and without wasting time. The man immediately called Ben. Sam, in a nutshell, outlined the situation to the interlocutor and immediately asked to lend him a decent amount of money. When Benjamin heard how much he wanted, his friend even whistled and said, "Do you realize how much you are asking for? I can't lend you that much, as my wife, and I have all the money in circulation. And to be honest, even if I had finances, I wouldn't give you such a sum, because you wouldn't have anything to pay back later. Nancy tells me you're struggling to make ends meet. You're a friend, but don't take offense to what I said." "Ben's not a friend, you're more after what you said. Friends don't do that. I'm even bitter that I turned to you. Go on living and enjoying life. I'll never bother you again. And I hope I will never see you again," he said, and immediately disconnected the connection. The man felt an unpleasant residue from his conversation with Benjamin. He forced himself not to think about this conversation, and his thoughts were directed to where he could get money. Sam went to his parents' house. His sister came up to him and asked if he had called a friend. The brother responded by lying that he hadn't gotten through. The man did not want to discuss with Nancy at the moment the conversation about Benjamin and his rejection. Sam walked to the kitchen, sat down at the table, and thought about it. He realized that money would not come into his pocket on its own, but finances were necessary. The The man realized that he could get the money only in the way he used to do. That is, by seducing a woman and getting her to pay him a large sum of money. Sam remembered that he had given his sister his word not to engage in this business anymore. But now there was no other way out. And at the same moment, the man thought of another option how he could get a tidy sum of money and keep his promise to Nancy. Sam decided that he would seduce a rich woman and marry her, and thus in the future he would not be in the dock for a swindle and would always have money. The man rubbed his hands together with joy that he had found such a good option. He immediately decided that he would look for a future bride in the capital. Sam believed that there are more opportunities to find there and faster wealthy women. The next day, the man notified the household that he was leaving. He told his sister that he would definitely get her money within 2 months. Nancy looked at her brother suspiciously and asked him if he was thinking of scamming women for money again. Sam gently kissed his sister on the cheek and replied that he had no intention of doing so. Soon the man arrived in New York. He rented a room and then wondered where exactly to meet a rich suitor. Initially, Sam wanted to go to a dingy office, but something stopped him from that. And at the same moment, the man's stomach sounded strongly. He immediately felt incredibly hungry. On the man's mind came the decision that first it is necessary to eat, and already on a full stomach to act. Next, Sam did not delay the planned action and soon left the rented room and went outside. The man decided that today he would definitely visit a restaurant. Perhaps there he would get acquainted with a woman. And here Sam already sat at the table and dictated the order to the waiter in uniform. As soon as the man dictated the dishes, he began to look around the restaurant. Sam noted with admiration that everything here is decorated exquisitely and without unnecessary decorations, as is usually done in cheap cafes. A few minutes passed and the waiter brought part of the order, saying that the hot dishes would be ready a little later. Sam nodded in agreement and prepared to start tasting the exquisite appetizer. But then his attention was attracted by a lush lady who sat at the table opposite. The stranger was looking sadly out the window while mixing a straw in her glass. She was a full woman of about 50 years of age who was dressed in a coffee-colored pantsuit. Sam looked at the stranger and the woman, as if sensing the gaze, turned to the man and looked at him questioningly. Sam involuntarily caught himself thinking that this woman was quite unhappy and obviously lonely. And he also realized that this lady was not poor. This conclusion appeared to him intuitively. And Sam got up from the table and approached her, and then politely said, "I see you are bored. Maybe I could keep you company. If you don't mind, I don't know what to tell you. On the one hand, you're a man with a strong-willed face, but no wedding ring, which suggests certain thoughts. On the other hand, I'm really bored. I'm curious to know the first side of your definition that brings you to mind. I'll answer. You're an interesting man to pay attention to a bun pulling up a cocktail. You're more likely to be interested in being with a hottie who has legs growing out of her ears and to be half my age. You're an interesting person. I'll be honest. It's not your looks that attracted me to you, it's your demeanor. But if you don't want to socialize, I'll be right back. Or rather, back to my table. Interested, young man, join us, we'll talk. Just tell me what exactly you are interested in my behavior." The man sat down next to me. He mentally realized that this woman was obviously a rich lady, but now Sam didn't know how to talk to her. Sam hadn't come up with a cover story for himself and was therefore a little nervous about it. The man didn't know what to tell the woman about himself, so he decided to act according to the circumstances. Sam offered to tell the woman about himself. The woman grinned back and said carelessly, "You're fast. Do you really think that I will tell the first person I meet everything about myself? Maybe you should tell me at the first meeting what my annual income is? You have pleased me now with your words, namely that you called our sit-downs with you the first meeting. I conclude from this that we will have more meetings, and not one, and not even two. And you are also a self-confident type," with a laugh, said the woman. "Maybe just a little. Let me start our dialogue differently. I would like to know your name and immediately suggest that we switch to the first name. It will be easier to talk that way. Well, we'll follow your plan. My name is Adriana. I'm 49 years old. I come here often because the food here is excellent." This is the first time I've seen your personality. Hence the conclusion that you're a stray pigeon. That's a pretty name you have. By the way, I want to say that you and shrewd madam, because I am actually a visiting pigeon here. I just got here today, decided to conquer New York. After losing business in my hometown, Sam said, and went on to tell the woman what his name was and how old he was. The woman listened attentively and then carelessly remarked that such a handsome man should definitely be married. Sam proudly took out his passport and held it out to the new acquaintance and said, "You can familiarize yourself with the document, where there is not a single stamp that I used to have the status of a married man." Adriana looked at the passport with interest, and then asked the interlocutor in surprise why he was not married. And then, without waiting for an answer, she said, "You don't have to answer that, as I have already guessed why you have never been married. You are obviously of a different orientation." Sam, hearing the words "new acquaintance," laughed and only after a while answered that his person does not attract the male sex at all. And then he added that he liked mature women with whom he could talk about various topics. Adriana, after these words, already looked at the man more interested, which did not hide from Sam. Then the couple started talking about New York. Sam tried to compliment her as often as possible under a plausible pretext. The woman heard beautiful words from the new acquaintance and tried not to react to them. But Sam saw perfectly well that she was pleased with these compliments. It took about 2 hours for the couple to communicate with each other. During this time, Sam learned that the interlocutor lives in a 3-room apartment, has a dacha in the Moscow region and a car. The owner of the travel agency was married. But life did not go well, and she and her husband separated. There is a child, a son, who is currently studying abroad. Sam listened to all this information carefully, and he was satisfied that he had sat down with this woman. The man realized that Adriana, like no one else, was very suitable for the role of a wife. And now Sam was thinking how to charm this lady even more. Meanwhile, the woman called the waiter and asked him to bring the bill. Sam realized that now the new acquaintance would pay and leave, and this was not in the plans of the man. That's why he said, "And you just like that you will leave now. I was hoping we could still have a good time and talk. I would suggest you to come to my place, but you realize that I will not surprise you there, because it is a rented room, where there is only 1 bed and a desk with 2 chairs. Are you asking me to visit? Are you in no hurry with your socializing? I thought we were modern people, and you obviously liked me. Why deny yourself the pleasure if we both don't want to part? I can't argue with you. Okay, let's go to my place, but we'll get some champagne on the way." Soon the couple left the restaurant and the woman hailed a cab. Sam was surprised to ask why she did not drive her own car. Adriana said with a smile that if she goes to a restaurant for dinner, she allows herself not to drink a strong cocktail. And if she does it, she does not get behind the wheel of a car in an inebriated state. Sam listened to the interlocutor and said, "And you are not only a beautiful woman, but also wise. You will be lucky to have a man who can capture your heart. Today you have showered me with compliments from head to toe. That's how you should be complimented. You are a worthy woman, to whom I want to say only beautiful words," quietly said the man, and in one movement attracted the new acquaintance to himself. And then Sam embraced the woman and kissed her passionately on the lips. That night the man spent at Adriana's place. Early in the morning Sam got up, while his partner was still asleep, and went to the kitchen. The man wanted to make coffee and so opened one of the cupboards as from behind he heard the voice of the landlady of the apartment, who said, "And you're looking for something to eat. You don't hide jewelry and money in the kitchen. And you might have thought that about me," the man said glumly and turned to the woman. He came close to Adriana and said, "I wanted to brew the most beautiful lady a fragrant drink and serve it in bed. But I don't know where to find a pot and coffee. I like your coffee idea," the woman said with a smile and reached up to Sam's face to kiss him. The man at the same moment embraced his partner and nestled his lips on hers, and then abruptly pulled away and mumbled, "I don't think we need coffee now. We need to continue the night's fun. Well, go to bed." After a while, Sam was lying on his back and breathing heavily. Adriana sat next to him and ran her finger over the man's face. The woman looked at the guest and thought about something. Sam hugged the landlady and said that it was time for him to look for a job. Adriana grinned and said that today was Sunday and it was unlikely to find a job on that day. Then the woman offered the man a few days to get settled in New York. The man gladly accepted. 2 weeks had passed since Sam had met Adriana. All this time he was staying with her. The man complimented the woman every day when she arrived after work, always made sure to cook delicious meals. And Adriana loved it. It seemed to her that the man really loved her. And so one day she struck up a conversation. "I know you're looking for a job, but you're getting a lot of bad ones. Maybe let me talk to my cousin, and he'll come up with something decent for you. You don't have to talk to anybody. I'm a man, and I have to take care of myself. If I don't find one in 2 weeks, I'll go to my homeland." "Are you saying you'll leave me?" "I thought so," the man said disappointedly. "Who told you I'm quitting? I'll work shifts. I'll live with you 1 month and work the next. I'd ask you to marry me. But you'd refuse to marry an unemployed man. And you first offer, and then already think," the woman said slyly. Sam mentally rejoiced because that's what he wanted. The man knelt down on one knee in front of the landlady and quietly made her a marriage proposal. Adriana hugged the head of her lover and happily mumbled that she agreed to become his spouse, and immediately added that they would go to the registry office tomorrow. Sam didn't argue. He asked only one thing. "Let's not organize a lavish celebration. Let's just sign everything and that's it. We're not 18 years old enough to have a big party." "If you say so. But I have a little condition that you let me talk to my cousin about the job. You know it's not gonna work if you just sit at home and do nothing. We'll talk about it later." Soon the couple filed a registry office application. Sam knew he was getting married. He hid it from his parents as well as his sister. He thought that it could be announced after a while. The man himself did not realize why he made such a decision. And soon the couple signed. They celebrated the ceremony in the same restaurant where they met. Adriana sat and admired the white gold wedding ring. Across from her sat her already legal husband, who leisurely sipped champagne from a glass, looking at his wife. It had been a week since Sam had married Adriana, and then the man received a phone call from his sister, tearfully and through sobs, informing him that her daughter had gotten worse. An operation was required as soon as possible. Sam asked Nancy to calm down and said the money would be there within a few days. Mail. After his sister's call, he paced nervously around the apartment, thinking about how to ask Adriana for money. Sam did not know how his spouse would react to his request to borrow money. And when the wife came home, the man asked her to sit down to talk. Adriana saw that her husband was worried about something, so she patted him on the arm and spoke softly. "You don't have a face on you. Tell me what's wrong. My sister needs money and a lot of it. How much and for what purpose?" Sam said the amount and then told him about his niece. Adriana listened attentively to her husband, and when her husband was silent, she sat silently for a while and looked at the floor. At that moment, the man sat with his hands clenched in a fist and waited for his wife's decision. Adriana, after some thought, said that the sum was very large and she could not give it so easily. Then the woman added that she had not lived with Sam long enough to trust him with everything. The man did not like the words of his wife, and he nervously said, "Will you help me or not? If you write a receipt that my sister will give me these finances within a certain time. But I can't give you a receipt instead of my sister," the man said in a perplexed tone. "Then we are obliged not to give the money to your wife. I realize it sounds absurd, but you also understand me correctly. We have not had time to get together. How do you need a certain amount of money? What if in a couple of weeks you come and divorce me? If you want to take offense, this is the only way I'm gonna give you the money. You write a receipt that's notarized. I didn't expect that from you. Okay, I agree to your terms, but then let your brother find me a job and high paying," the man said. He immediately called his sister and told Nancy that tomorrow he would transfer the required amount of money to her in the evening. The next day, Sam and his wife visited a notary. The man wrote a receipt and then received the money, which he immediately transferred to his sister. Nancy, as soon as she received the money, then called her brother and wondered where he got so much. Sam He hastened to reassure his sister and told her that he had been approved for a loan from the bank. Nancy thanked her brother and said that she and her husband would pay back the debt whenever possible. Sam chimed in response. "Let me go on about this nonsense. You don't have to give me anything. I gave the money gratuitously. The most important thing now is for my niece to get well as soon as possible." A month passed after Sam transferred the money to his sister. During this time, Nancy and her daughter had an operation in St. Petersburg, and the girl was on the mend. Adriana introduced her husband to her cousin Mark. The man was the director of a furniture factory. Sam immediately approached his new relative with a request to get him a job. Mark Markovich answered, "I'll take you to my factory. I'll give you the position of a small supervisor. But in fact, you won't have to do anything. In principle, you will be introduced to all the subtleties. Your companion. Let's just say that you'll only work your ass off and get paid for it. If you want to go deeper into the labor activity and promote yourself, then you'll have to take more responsibility and learn a few things. What do you think of my offer? I'm in. I'm tired of sitting at home and staring at the TV all day long. It'll give me some variety in my life." Soon Sam went to work, and in fact, the man was explained his duties, told what he had to do. Sam was well aware that the position was a fictitious one, and in fact, he did not have to do anything. After the first day of work, the man called his wife and asked her for a festive dinner. Adriana readily agreed and suggested celebrating the first day of work in a restaurant. Sam gladly agreed. And now the couple is sitting in the restaurant and having dinner. Sam enthusiastically tells how the first day of work went. The woman listens to her husband and thinks how good it is that Mark helped her husband with his work. It had been a month since Sam had gotten a job. The man felt as if life was passing him by. He was bored with his life. He didn't want to go home because he didn't want to see his wife's face. After all, he understood perfectly well what he had married this woman for. Work also did not bring joy, and the man went to the furniture factory only for a tick and often left work, not waiting for the end of the working day. And so Sam decided to leave the factory early to go for a walk in New York. The man packed up and left the factory. He walked down the street and looked at passers-by. And then his attention was attracted by a girl who was standing and feeding birds with a mug of bread. The man approached the stranger and politely inquired, "Can I keep you company?" The girl looked at the man and smiled coquettishly at him. And then she handed Sam a piece of bread and offered to help her in this business. In a few minutes, the couple were talking animatedly about the girl. The man learned that her name is Lola. She is 24 years old and works as a nurse in a hospital. She lives with her mom in a 2-room apartment. After the couple ran out of bread, the man suggested that the girl go to a cafe and continue the conversation. Lola did not refuse, and soon they were already sitting in the institution and drinking coffee. The man looked at the interlocutor and imagined how with her he could have fun in bed. The girl, as if reading his thoughts, said, "Probably, anticipating that very soon you and I will make love." "How did you guess that?" Sam said, perplexed. "Yes, I could tell from the look in your eyes. You're undressing me with your gaze in the cafe. So I want you so much, if you understood everything from my look. Then offer me a place and let's go. Why waste precious time if our desires coincide?" The man laughed, and then asked the girl to wait for him, and he quickly left the cafe. Sam hurried to the kiosk where they sold the press. He bought a newspaper. He found an ad for an apartment for rent and quickly called it. The man agreed with the landlady on his cell phone and then returned to Lola. And soon the couple was already at the rented apartment, where they made love. It took about 3 hours before the man lay on his back in satisfaction. He felt good with this girl, who did not ask unnecessary questions. At this moment, he imagined that very soon he would have to get dressed and return home to his hated wife. And at the same moment the phone rang. It was his wife, who capriciously mumbled, "Where the hell are you? The working day is long over, and you are not home yet? Don't worry, darling, I just decided to take a walk today. I'm going home to warm up dinner." After these words, the man turned to Lola and asked the girl if she liked everything. The young woman replied with a nod and immediately asked if they would meet again. Sam kissed his partner with a passionate kiss on the lips and replied that they would definitely see each other more than once. And then the man asked Lola to dictate his phone number. The girl complied with Sam's request, and after that the couple parted. Soon the man came home, where a disgruntled Adriana was waiting for him. The woman, not hiding her bad mood, asked Sam next time he wanted to go for a walk to put her on notice. The man shrugged in response and only asked, "I will be fed in this house." After meeting Lola a few days passed, Sam again wanted to meet the girl. He called her, made an appointment, and as before, the couple again rented a one-room apartment where they had fun. And then the man, as always, promised the girl that this meeting would not be the last. And after that, he gave the young woman a gold chain, which he had bought especially for her. A month flew by as Sam secretly met with Lola. He enjoyed seeing this girl. He enjoyed giving the young woman inexpensive gifts, which she gladly accepted. Sometimes Sam even wondered whether he would be able to start a family with Lola. However, he did not ask the girl a direct question. And so Sam wanted to see Lola again. The man, as always, called the young woman and scheduled a date at a rented apartment. Sam had left work on his lunch break that day. He wanted to spend as much time as possible with the girl today. Before the date, the man stopped by the store and bought Lola expensive perfume. And already soon Sam was in the nude in bed with a young woman. Suddenly the phone rang. The man, without looking, pressed the answer button, and hearing the greeting of his wife, quickly replied, "I'm not comfortable talking, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back later." And only the man wanted to disconnect the cell phone as he heard the angry speech of his wife. "At the meeting, you say? Isn't that brunette you're reading the report now?" Rose eyes. "I'm calling you via video link. Okay, honey, we're gonna have a short conversation. And not over the phone, but in person. I'll meet you at home immediately." The man looked at the screen of the phone perplexed. He was cursing himself for not looking at the cell phone when he turned it on. In the meantime, Lola got up and started to get dressed. Sam was now looking at the girl, who was almost dressed. The man called out to the young woman and suggested that they stay a little longer to talk. Lola glanced at her partner. She sat down next to him, asking him, "What do you want to tell me? You understand everything perfectly well. The wife is now obviously going to ask for a divorce. And I want to ask you if you want to marry me." "No, I was just seeing you for fun. I don't plan on getting married. At least not at the moment." "Do you mean to say that you have no feelings for me, and you are writing from a girl's answer?" The interlocutor said, surprised. "If you mean love, then I can say that I do not love you. I just feel good with you in bed. I like it when you give gifts, and that's all that keeps us together. In that case, it was the last time we'd see each other. I thought you loved me. Okay, go on, go, and I won't detain you any longer." As soon as the girl left the apartment, the man put his hands around his head and thought. He understood perfectly well that now a rather unpleasant conversation was waiting for him at home. Sam felt that he was in prostration. On the one hand, he was glad that everything had happened this way. After all, now he did not have to pretend to be a man in love with his own wife. But on the other hand, now meant that going to restaurants, trips to the racetrack, as well as visiting theaters, all this stops. The man sighed sorrowfully. After these reflections, he quickly gathered himself and then hurried home, where his angry spouse was waiting for him. And as soon as Sam entered the apartment, he saw that in the hallway there was a bag, and next to it a small package. The man passed into the living room, where the spouse was sitting in an armchair. The woman gestured to the second chair. Sam sat down and looked at his spouse, and the woman coldly said, "You are an excellent lover. Nothing can be said here, but that's your value. You do not need to explain popularly that after your treason, I'm not going to live with you. And I didn't find myself in a dumpster to be treated like that, and especially you, who's a real pauper. I'll file for divorce. You don't have to worry about that, do you? You'll have the state tax deducted from your paycheck, although you can't expect to get a paycheck. I hope you haven't forgotten that I have a receipt in which you agree to pay me the money. From now on, you are no longer my husband, but only a man who owes me money. And one more thing. You no longer work for my cousin. He'll fire you for cause. That's a little favor from me to you. Now you're free to go on your way. rolling around in bed. The man stood up. He wanted to answer the woman rudely, but he forced himself not to say any nasty words. Sam looked at the landlady and then put his hand in his jacket pocket and wanted to go to the exit. But then his palm fumbled for a small box. The man took out the object and was surprised to notice that it was perfume, which he intended to give and forgot. Sam turned to his wife and handed her the box and said, "It's been a long time since I gave you a gift. Let this perfume be a parting gift from me. I beg you, do not hold a grudge against me. I wish you in the future to meet a worthy man who will love you with all his heart and never hurt. Don't worry about the money. If I owe you, I will give it to you. I will warn you right away that perhaps the next payment can be a little delayed, because I will still have to find a job. After all, you said yourself that I'm not working for Mark anymore. Now I'm leaving and I wish you happiness." Sam picked up his bag and left the apartment, never to come back here again. He walked for a while and then turned into a public garden, where he sat down on a bench and thought about what he should do next. Sam did not want to stay in New York, as he realized that it was a really expensive city. The man pondered for a while as his sister called him. Sam picked up the phone and greeted Nancy, and she quickly spoke to Sam. "Come to the village at once. Mom had a heart attack. She has been taken to the district hospital. How is she doing? What do the doctors say? We won't know until tomorrow." "What kind of day is this?" "Only trouble," the man said glumly, and immediately added that he was going to the train station to buy a ticket for the nearest flight. The man only wanted to disconnect the connection when Nancy spoke again. "What happened there?" "What kind of trouble?" "I'm fine." Without thinking, I said, and after these words, I immediately disconnected the connection. Sam now realized that as soon as he appeared at home, his sister would not give up on him until she knew the whole truth. A day later, Sam was already in the village. He learned from Nancy that his mother was better and could be visited. The man went to see his mother. The very next day after his arrival, Sam bought some fruit and soon went to the hospital. He came to the post, where a small girl was sitting and writing something in a journal. The man walked to get her attention, and then he heard from the nurse. "You don't want to spread infection around here. If there's anything you want to ask me, I'm listening. And I'm not used to talking to a man who's busy doing something else. Why don't you at least look at me? Man, what do you want?" "Talk fast, because I have a lot of things to do," the girl said and looked at the visitor point blank. Sam looked at the nurse and immediately mentally thought it is necessary to be born so scary. But aloud, the man said that he wanted to visit his mother, and he needed to know the room number. The girl, having heard Sam's surname, immediately told him in which ward the elderly woman was lying. The visitor thanked the medic and went further down the corridor. Sam stayed with his mother for about an hour and then left the ward. The man was walking towards the exit when the same nurse he had seen at the post came out to meet him. Sam thought again how unlucky this girl was with her looks, and then he noticed that she was limping on her right leg. The man mentally and thought that such things happen in life. Not only that this girl was born, not pretty, but also the Lord awarded her with a limp. Soon Sam came to the village. His sister immediately came to him and began to ask about the trouble he had in New York. The man refused for a long time, but Nancy was adamant and demanded to tell her everything. Sam couldn't stand it and said in his heart, "You are a pain in the ass, my sister, as only your husband tolerates you. If my niece will go to you in character, then definitely can communicate with you will be only on the phone and only 10 minutes. Don't leave. Tell me what happened. After all, know that I will not leave until I know the truth." Sam sighed sorrowfully and told his sister about his marriage and where he got the money for Kelly's surgery. The man also informed her of his infidelity. Nancy listened to all this news with her eyes wide open, and as soon as her brother fell silent, she slammed her fist into his chest and spoke angrily. "You married this Adriana just to get money out of her. How could you do that? In fact, you promised me that you wouldn't get your finances that way. How could you even keep this from me? Stop raging. It's all in the past. I'm gonna live here with you guys now. I don't know if we're all living together though. Of course we will. When you get a job, we'll all work together to pay off that debt to your ex-wife. All that matters now is that Mom gets better. You're right about that, Nancy. Sam's mom was in the hospital for 10 days. The man visited the old woman every other day and often met a nurse who was still limping. When Sam saw the girl, he always saw her as an angry nurse. The man himself did not understand why he thought so about her. And before the mother was discharged, he asked her a question. There's a nurse who works here who has a limp. I think she's angry because it's written all over her face. You shouldn't say she's mean. She's a kind soul. She will find for each patient affectionate words, and no stranger to help nurse to change diapers, seriously ill people. And also when she has a night shift, and she reads books to us. I didn't expect you to praise her so much. After the man's mother was discharged, Sam went to the city and got a job at a factory in a specialty. He decided that he would live his life as he could and no longer looked for rich women. Sam no longer dreamed of a life where he could go to expensive restaurants and drive a cool foreign car. 2 months passed as the man worked at the factory, and one day he was returning home to his rented apartment. After a day of labor, as he noticed a girl who was limping, she took a couple of steps and suddenly fell on the path, which was covered with ice. And at the same moment, 2 guys laughed nearby, and one of them said not only that it was scary, and how the earth bears such persons. Sam was well aware that this phrase was heard by the girl. The man immediately jumped up to the guys and asked them to apologize to the girl. The young men wanted to answer the glory rudely at first, but seeing his angry look, quietly said that they apologize. And after these words, the boys hurried away. Meanwhile, Sam gave his hand to the girl and asked her softly, "Are you not mistaken?" "No, but you shouldn't have stood up for me like that. I'm used to such words long ago." And then the girl looked at her savior and said in surprise, "I know you. You visited your mother in the hospital. I wonder if you memorize all the visitors as you do me. If I'm not mistaken, your name is Helen." "No mistake. Not all the visitors. It's just that you look like a subject." "Well, I won't keep you. I should get home. Why are you running away from me so fast? Let me walk you out so you don't run into guys like that. You gotta be kidding me. Thanks for your help, but you don't have to walk me home. I'd just like to talk to you, but I can see you're being belligerent toward me. All because you think I'm cute. What's the resonance? But it turns out being beautiful isn't always a good thing in life. So what are we gonna talk about?" "I'll find things to talk about," the man said happily. He didn't know, but he really wanted to talk to this girl. The couple walked down the street for a while and talked peacefully. Sam mostly told about his childhood, how he used to joke about his sister. Helen listened to him. I laughed heartily. Soon the young people approached the house, and the girl announced that they were there. The man sighed disappointedly and immediately offered the new acquaintance another walk. However, the girl refused, saying that she had more important things to do. Sam once again sighed disappointedly and said, "Well, at least give me your phone number to call you and invite you for a walk. I have a free day, will be on Thursday. We'll call in the morning and talk about it." And soon the girl left, and the man still stood for some time and thought a new acquaintance. Sam was at this time ready to do anything, only if Helen would be with him a little longer. The man glanced at the house and then turned and went to his room. A few days passed, and it was Thursday. Sam dialed Helen's number on his lunch hour and greeted the girl and then asked her if she would be willing to go out with him today. The girl said yes and told him where to come over and what time. Sam walked to the date, visibly nervous. The man came to the meeting as much as half an hour before the appointed time. He stood and moved from foot to foot, looking for Helen. And soon Sam saw the limping girl. He hurried to meet her, and as soon as he was near her, he took out a small bouquet of flowers from his pocket and handed it to Helen. The girl embarrassedly said, "We'll freeze them now. It's not the month of May. I suggest that we go to the cafe and warm ourselves, and we will not let the flowers die. It's a waste of money. I don't think you're a millionaire's son to spend money left and right. Let's go to my place. Grandma will enjoy the company of a handsome man. That's the thing. But let's stop by the store so I can at least buy a cake, because it's uncomfortable to go empty-handed. You'll be holding flowers, so present them to my grandmother. But I gave you the bouquet." "Again an inconsistency, it comes out," said Sam embarrassedly. The girl laughed in response and said that if they continued to argue, she would change her mind about taking the man to her house. After these words of Alina, the interlocutor raised his hands above his head and said that he was giving up. The couple soon continued on their way. Sam asked the interlocutor to tell about herself. Helen looked at the man and said that she was 24 years old and lived with her grandmother. She also said that last year she entered the medical school on a correspondence course. The girl said that in the future she dreams of becoming a doctor orthopedist. Helen did not tell anything about her father, and about her mother said that she lives in another city. Soon the man was already sitting at the girl's house and talking nicely with the elderly woman. And Helen was setting the table to treat the guest with tea and cakes that the grandmother had baked today. Nickel. After that, Sam began to call the girl often, as well as to visit her. The man felt that he was incredibly attracted to Helen. He wanted to protect her and see her as often as possible. Nickel saw that the man liked her granddaughter. And once, when Sam came to visit, and the girl was not at home at that moment, the old woman turned to him. "Are you serious about hitting on my granddaughter, or do you want to stroke your ego? There are plenty of available girls for that. And if we are having a serious conversation right now, I can tell you that Helen and I have fallen in love. I've never had feelings like this before. And would you believe me, I've been with a lot of women. If you're in love, why did you ask her to marry you? You know, I think I might do that tonight. When Helen gets here, I'll tell her about it. But I'll tell you right away, I'm not going to give you the Goldilocks. You know all about me. But will she agree to marry me? Well, you ask her now. Helen just got home. Idea groom, meet your beloved." Sam happily nodded to the older woman and followed her into the hallway. The couple chatted privately for a while, and then the young people made their way into the hall. Nickel looked at her granddaughter and realized that the girl had accepted the man's proposal. The old lady smiled at the couple and proposed to celebrate the engagement. After these words of the old woman, everyone in the room laughed. Soon the trio sat down at the table. Helen poured tea for everyone and put a vase with jam and dried fruit on the table. The girl watched with delight as the chosen one took a few sips and looked at her. And then he looked at Nicole and softly said, "My future spouse is the most beautiful in this world. And if anyone wants to dispute that, they'll have to deal with my fist. Your future wife is not only beautiful, she's also rich. I know I didn't tell you that, Helen, and I was right to. But there's no point in keeping it a secret now. Her mom lives abroad and has a business there. She offered her daughter to move in with her, but Anishka refused. She said she wanted to do everything on her own, which in fact she does. However, her mother transfers her money every month, which has been accumulating for years, and now there is a very decent amount. You'll have enough for a wedding and a trip, and even to start your own business if you want." After these words, Sam stood up, walked over to Helen, hugged her tenderly, and said to Nicole, "To hell with money. Money isn't what makes you happy. I found my diamond in Helen, and I don't need anything else, but only in the future. A couple of screaming kids, to call us daddy and mommy,